you, PD. I'm going to plug that in on the other side of there as well. Man, I wish I could type like really fast and accurate. Typing is atrocious. So you can have one or the other. You can get it fast, but inaccurate. You can have it accurate, but slow. Right. So that's that taken care of from that front. I think anyways. Alright, next thing we need to know is whether we've got audio coming in. Last night, stream, you could only hear me, so kind of ruined the debate. However, it is possible to download the past debates and upload them. But if I were to do that, I would put the uploads as unlisted and just post them in the community. So if people want that, let me know. I think that debate with Omega was interesting, so that might be worth uploading. First thing we need to know is what our sound is like. We've got sound on that side. Now we're plugged into the TV. Oh yes, the last night's episode of Bleach was interesting as well. We got yet another we got 2 transformations again in one episode of Bleach. So they are. Do you know what? Oh man, actually, I'll wait until people actually come on before I talk about it. They absolutely ripped off Naruto, bro. They gave Ichigo shadow clones. So that, you know, like the top 3 was always like was it Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, right? So they were like the children underneath Dragon Ball Z. They gonna give this N-word Ichigo the power of shadow clones now. Like it's only because Bleach is still good, right? One Piece is still good also, but they gonna give Ichigo shadow clones, bro. They're just mocking it, bro. What Naruto needs to come back for that, bro. They can't do that, man. They just completely jacked Naruto's whole style. Got Ichigo out here just doing shadow clone jutsu. It's mockery. But yeah, we can talk about that later. But yes, Bleach. There's very interesting progress in the show. Right, so sit down by the fire for a minute. Get our charge our flasks up. Got man doing shadow clones. I couldn't believe it. I said, yo, how are you just gonna jack Naruto like that? got a man like Ichigo doing shadow clone jutsu. I couldn't believe it. Salt Silver. I mean, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. At least the gods that we talk about, I don't think they're real. I think there's more evidence that we invented them. Ace, what's up, bro? Thanks for tapping that screen. I think like we gotta start like playing the TikTok game and doing all the challenges and tapping the screen and sharing and doing all that nonsense if we actually want to be able to talk to people. So it's just one of those platforms that requires you to play the game. So I think once in my life I'm gonna have to conform and capitulate or it's gonna go pop. How about that? It's gonna sell out. That will be entirely determined by you guys if I will just sell out or not, or keep it raw. But yeah, what was I saying? Like, washing machine's loud, isn't it? All right. Yeah, I also think the gods that we talk about are not real. Let's go, just close that door for me. One sec, gonna accept you. Folks, let's tap that screen. What's up, bro?
Yo, bro.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. You?
Not too bad, man. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. Just the last one, the great replacement one. So
Yeah.
I agree with the other ones, but basically it's not like a great replacement in the sense that there's some J-ish like cabal that's doing it. It's just the thing where it's like demographically, if things keep on going like this, then a lot of the people in the West are gonna decline. Like their population is gonna decline, and other populations are gonna increase basically. Because if you look at it, what one? I think we're now having children later, and we're having less of them as well. So I think that the average age that people are having children is probably coming close to 30 now, and then people are starting to have only one child. So therefore,
You
it
saying
you know
all people, all demographics, or one demographic?
not okay, not okay, but the great replacement is about like white people basically or European people. So like in their demographic, they tend to have less children basically. So and they have children later as well. So it's like if that keeps on happening, then the government what they'll do is they'll seek to get the working population from other countries, and they'll bring other like immigrants in basically, and these people
That's
are like
partially
boots on the
true.
ground.
That's partially true,
Yeah.
right? But the main reason why government gets immigrants in is because of capitalism. Is because they can afford. Basically, they want to exploit labor from outside of the country because they will capitulate to the wages, whereas people, citizens, nationals, won't. Right? That's the main reason why we get immigrant workers. But in terms of the birth rate thing, it's actually proven that people. So let's say like you're a second generation Caribbean person or an African, right? Or let's say you moved here, right? Your kids will end up having kids at the same rate as the nationals, the white nationals of the country. So it's not really a case of it's just them having kids later and fewer kids. It's just the culture.
But that's even the thing. So like the whole immigration thing to like sustain the working population is not it's not exactly it's not like a robust idea because yeah, like you're saying, the next generation will even have less children. Like start having like children later and then less of them as well because they're not obviously because they've obviously grown up they've been raised in a first world country, so it's not even sustainable. But it's like it's still I feel like so it's not like a great replacement. It's just a demographical issue. It's like a skill issue basically, and that's why other people are coming in basically.
Yeah, to an extent, but it still doesn't lead to right. Put it this way: the way the population, put it this way, humans in general, like our family, like the hominidae family, the reason why Homo sapiens survived is because we migrate. It's because we move for resources and opportunities. So that's normal. That's like to be expected from our species. But in terms of how like these, what you would call them white nationalists, their propaganda of the Great Replacement, it's not real. It's simply untrue. But yes, what is true is that you could say white people are a minority, a global minority. That is true, but it doesn't mean there isn't a concerted effort to replace them.
Yeah, that's what I agree with. So there's no concerted effort, but because like they have basically a skill issue. Like if your like economy or your society cannot like reproduce itself, and you have to get your working population from elsewhere, or you have to get you have to get your working population from elsewhere, because in your culture you don't have enough children or whatever it is, or you know, it's like the men are
That's not
fighting
really
women,
true
or
though.
that's a skill issue.
That's not true. They are reproducing. If you actually think about how the Western world was built up, it was built off of free labor and free resources essentially. So they've always been like that. It's, they, people are
Yeah, but
like,
before like there'd be like what, three children between one marriage, and then people were getting married younger as well. But now like the marriage age is going up and up, and then people are having less children.
yeah,
So it's like,
that has to do with education primarily and economic realities. If you can't afford to have families and you're actually educated on the matter, then yes, the rational decision would be to defer having kids until later.
yes, it's rational, but it doesn't change the fact that an economy can't function like that, because you need like to have a youthful population and not an aging population.
Yeah, but that's just
So even though it's
capitalism.
rational,
That's just capitalism, because that's what I'm saying. Like, if you go back into, like, say, the 1400s and all the way up, they had the same problem. So they outsourced all of the work, all of the resources to black and Asian people. Right?
yeah.
It's literally the same thing. Right? It's the only difference now is that they can't make you work for free; they have to pay you. That's the only difference. What's up, game?
So yeah, I guess it is a capitalism issue. It's not like a conceited effort. It's just a skill issue.
But yeah, I
Skill issue.
mean,
That's it,
I think
basically.
one half of what you're saying is right, but I think the other half is just straight up racist conspiracy. It's just it's, the part that people go for when they repeat these lies is the racist bit. It's like they feel some type of way about race, and that's why they believe it. It's not necessarily that they're examining their economy and their country and politics. I don't think that's true.
Okay, cool. But how about this? Yeah, if okay, I'm not saying they're not racist. It is a racist thing. But
Absolutely, it's developed
think
by
about it. Yeah,
racists.
it's like, of course, yeah, of course. But
It's like it's
if
French
okay, cool.
nationalists. I
If
think it
for
was.
like, but if for like, let's say the white British population, if they keep on going like this, where it's like, yeah, one child, where you know the average child is being born at 30, and you know couples are only having one child and having it at 30, then and then obviously because of that, you know, the government is going to seek to get its working population from elsewhere.
It's not because of
Cool.
that though.
If that if that if that
That's not
keeps on
that
happening,
doesn't correlate. That's what I'm saying to you. That is not why the government
okay,
is getting. And
okay, why is it then?
in fact, it's not even government. It's companies. Right? If you, right, well, I don't know. Last time you went to a building site or went to Amazon or to like an RDC center, like the job that I do, I see all of these places. The majority of the people running the businesses and on the ground doing the work are foreign. Why do you think that is? Right? It's not because the population isn't there to do these jobs. It's because they will take the wages that are lower than what the population knows they're worth. That is what the
Okay, so
problem
do you
is.
mean
So it's capitalist companies who drive immigration coming in to any country. People don't leave their home unless there's opportunities, or unless they're
okay, cool.
They're war torn.
Okay, do you mean like an Amazon being constructed, or like the day-to-day running of Amazon
Well,
warehouse?
both technically. Like Bezos is an American, so both technically.
Fair enough. I mean, fair enough. Obviously, I work in that field anyway, and I remember the first time I worked on the site, it was at Amazon being constructed, and cool. Whilst there was like a large like foreign sort of like working force, it definitely was mainly like British, but yeah, you ain't. I mean, you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. But essentially, if things keep on going like this, theoretically, would you say that I guess the British population will decline, will keep declining because of obviously what you said, because
I don't think it is
companies keep
declining.
bringing in.
No, like so the population. What we're actually seeing is that people are living longer. So it's not necessarily true that the population is declining like that. I think that, all right. So there may be some truth in it in terms of how many people are actually having kids at any given time. But you could say birth rates and economics go hand in hand. So there'll be like swings and roundabouts. There'll be periods of like what was, I think it was the 50s or something, called the baby boom or something like that. And then there'll be
Yeah.
periods of declining birth rates. It's just how humans and economics works, in my opinion, anyways. So I think it's just one. We're just
Okay,
in the
so you
lower
think it will
phase.
you think it will correct itself? So you think it will correct itself, and it's just another phase where like
Probably,
you know. I
probably.
mean,
I
look,
think
if
I think
there's
it's a
like
lot
some
of
sort
scare
of like
tactic though.
economic crash, if there's some sort of economic crash, you know, when funnily enough, yeah, you know, when you're in prosperity, people tend to have less children. But then when like there's like times are hard, people tend to have more children. So yeah, if there's some sort of economic crash, then yeah, I guess you probably see people start to have a bit more children and
Well,
stuff like that,
I'm
and then
not
you revert back to even.
I'm not entirely sure that that's accurate, but I can see why that might be a thing. I'm not sure though.
It's like okay, cool. In okay, cool. All of the first world countries, you know, Europe, people are having like less children, but it's like more so in the what you call the third world or the less economically developed world. They tend to have more children, basically. So it's like where there's like prosperity, people just tend to have less children, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, it's not prosperity. It comes down to so there's this like a you could sort of call it like a sociological category called weird, right? It's Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. That's like the baseline for what you would call a first world country. Anything outside of that is what would be considered a third world country. So it's not necessarily just prosperity. It's the education, it's the industrialization, it's money, it's politics. There's a bunch of contributing factors to why people live the way they do. You know, so I wouldn't necessarily
Yeah,
say it's just
you completely lagged
prosperity.
out. I completely lagged out.
Well, I'm saying that I wouldn't say it's just necessarily prosperity in terms of a financial thing. It has to do with education. It has to do with industrialization. It has to do with policies and politics as well. It's not just there's money or there's not money. You know? And
Ob-
yeah, religion plays
I mean,
into
yeah,
it too.
obviously I'm being a bit obviously I'm being a bit reductive, but like when I say prosperity, but even it's like I might even say countries that are more the richer a country gets, like the less religious it gets, or the poorer a country is, like the more religious. Poorer countries tend to be more religious. So like I am being reductive and just saying prosperity, but like all of this, it does like tie down to like riches and stuff. And then I don't know, a richer country is going to be a more industrialized country, and then so and you know secularization.
But
Yeah,
but
you
it
see what I'm
does.
saying? So
You're right, but it all goes back to the same thing that the West kicked off. It's they right. So something like religion would make you more inclined, like being a Catholic or Catholicism,
yeah,
would make you more inclined to be against like birth control, etc. Like be fruitful, multiply, all of these kinds of ideologies, right? But you also got to remember how that ideology arrived in the third world country was part of the capitalist extraction plan. Okay, so you know, like people say, they came with the Bible, we had the land, right? They left us with the Bible, and they took the land, right? That's the way the capitalist engine works. They
yeah,
have to instill an ideology that allows for the extraction. So what you might see play out in terms of birth rates might be that, but it also is a matter of fact, like we said earlier on, that there's just more global brown people than there is global white people. So these things would be expected, you know.
okay, so you're on this thing where cool, even if it does continue like this, it's just a phase, and what will happen is there'll be like a baby boom. Basically, that's your position on this.
Potentially, but I think the problem actually is that it's fear mongering, like at the base of it. That it's not necessarily something white people should be running around worried about. It was always fear mongering based on racism and nationalism. So it was never like, oh, like we actually care about white people type of thing. It's like, no, we want to scare you into adopting a type of politics. That was what it was always about. So like white people have
Yeah,
been a
no, I
global
see it.
global
Yeah.
minority for a long time, and they were totally fine with it. Well, some still are, but yeah, it's about getting them to adapt to certain ideology or adopt a certain ideology.
Okay, cool. If okay, cool. If someone was like in the UK, where,
Yo, you muted up, bro.
yeah, yeah, cool. That's an update thing. Let me join back.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I never thought I'd like look. Don't get me wrong, right? It's interesting. Ace is speaking of this, but you got a black man defending the great replacement theory. That's interesting, isn't it? What's up, Ace? Welcome back.
No, I'm not even trying to defend it. I'm not even trying to defend it, but like. the thing behind it is that if things keep on going like this in their demographic, it's not really looking good for them. Obviously, it's not really my burden to bear. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's not racist. Like a lot of it is racial fear mongering,
Of course it
but
is.
it's like, all right, cool. What country are you from?
Well, I'm born here, so technically I'm from here.
Yeah. Okay.
If you ask
What's your
where my
ethnicity?
parents are from, my parents are
Yeah,
West
or your
Indian.
ethnic group.
My parents are West Indian, so from two different islands, so it's like part Indian, part African at the root of it.
All right, cool. So let's say like Guyana. I'm not saying you're from there, but let's say like Guyana. If
Okay.
all right, cool. If in Guyana, like, cool, people are they're having children less and less. They're having children older. Like, would you, if you were like in control of Guyana or had some sort of like political influence, would you not look at that like it's an issue?
It depends. It depends. Why are we considering it being a bad thing? Is what I need to understand.
Because it would lead to an aging population, and then obviously we know like it's best for economies function better when there's a youthful population rather than an aging population. Car, what is it? Car,
That would depend on your
you know,
economic
you
philosophy,
pay.
though.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, someone. Yeah, cool. All right, cool. Yeah, if you're a communist, I guess you're probably not really gonna care. But
Yeah, or a
I
socialist
mean,
or
we
something like that. You might not
no, no.
care.
But the thing is, no. But even if you're a socialist, yeah, and you believe in like socialism, then wouldn't you have a pension system? But young people
Yeah,
need to pay into that pension system, isn't
pension
it?
systems are actually a socialist program. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But who pays into the social system? It's
look,
young people.
yeah, kind of, but it's still a type of exploitation, really, in the way it's running now. But look, what all I'm saying is, yes, the way things currently work, right? We need basically to feed more bodies to the meat grinder, which is capitalism, and that's just the way
Yeah.
things work in our world. This is true. But to say that that's the way things should work is another question altogether, which I don't know if I have the answers to.
I mean, I ain't got the answers either. I ain't got the answers either. But what I know is that okay, cool. All of these parties like Restore Britain, Conservative, and all that. People supporting them. Like they're not gonna stop bringing in immigration. They're not gonna stop bringing in
You
immigration.
can't.
So like,
They're
it's
too
it's
they're too
you can't. That's
dependent
what
on
I'm
it.
saying. They can't because you don't even have enough children yourself. So it's pretty stupid, isn't it?
But this is what they don't realize. The way capitalism works is even if they did have enough children, right, they still wouldn't be the people who wanted to do those jobs. That's the thing. Or if
Yeah.
they were going to do those jobs, they would have to actually reform the system. Like if you care about something like immigration to that level, then you should also care about wages going up and fixing the cost of living, because that's what drives the immigration in the first place. Like if you were to say, look, I'm gonna get in lockstep or in union with the Polish guy at work, with the African guy at work, with the Asian guy at work. We're gonna make it so the boss can't pay the Polish man less than me, and the boss can't pay the Polish man or the Asian man less than me. Then you help adjust the problem. But if you just say, nah, I'm not doing it for that money, right? So fuck you, kind of thing, which is fair to say. The boss is just gonna say, all right, then let's get some Polish people. All right, then let's get some Asian people, which is what they've been doing. Yeah. If you was to be in solidarity with those people, then you might make a fairer system for everyone.
So what are you? Some sort? Are you? Would you say you're a communist then?
No, I'm just a guy.
Okay.
I don't attach myself to any of those ideologies, but I think the critiques are valid on both sides.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Why do you think? Yeah. Why do you think smoking should be banned? Not that I disagree, but
Because it's more harmful than it is helpful. It hurts more people than it does provide, happiness. But that way.
do people? But would you say that people have the right to harm themselves if they want to do it in that way anyway?
No, that's not something that's legally protected. That's just a philosophical view.
Okay, cool. So in your philosophical framework, you don't believe if something's like harmful, people shouldn't be able to do it. They should be stopped from doing it.
I think it depends on the utility of the thing we're discussing. So there are things that are harmful, but the utility of them are worth keeping them around. Smoking isn't one of those things.
Who decides the threshold?
think politics primarily, well, people, obviously. But yeah, right. So if you used to say creating arms manufacturing is harmful. Right? It's literally designed to kill people. But the utility of having arms serves a great enough purpose to keep them around. Like, for instance, like mutually assured destruction. That's something that is horrible, but in our political climate is permissible. If you were to say, right, the production of cigarettes primarily harms people, but what's the utility, right, for the wider society? It's little to nothing. If you say, oh, we make money from it, well, the stats show, right, we take about £7 billion from tobacco products a year, but those tobacco products cost our economy £44 billion in lost productivity, people dying and people being sick. So what's the utility? You still there, bro?
Obviously, yeah, obviously, it just keeps lagging like every now and again, but I'm not a smoker, but it's like the people that smoke, I guess the utility for them would be their stress relief, or maybe like they feel less anxious when they smoke. I personally think it's a dumb activity, to be honest with you, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's sort of like a thing. It's their own choice, isn't it?
Well, it's not, right? Because if you actually examine how, like, let's say, consumer psychology works, and if you like look into people like Noam Chomsky and manufacturing consent, it's not actually their choice, right? Here's something that you should probably be aware of, which a lot of people aren't, right? So there's 1.3 billion smokers in the world. 80% of those smokers start before the age of 20 and are chemically dependent by the age of 18. The earliest debut age in smoking, right, whether that's tobacco or cannabis, is between 9 and 13. So in those ages, right, biologically, you're still a child, right? Your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. So you're in a system of coercion where you're like your real rights, like your right to a safe environment, healthy environment growing up, have already been coerced away from you. So at the point in which you interact with a market to buy a cigarette or to buy cannabis, that's a choice and a desire that's been manufactured into you. So it's not actually a free choice you're making. By the time you start using the product, you're now chemically dependent. So the chemical now starts to drive the choices that you make. So they're not making a free choice. And in terms of their
It's a good point.
like a stress alleviation, right, once you become chemically dependent, your baseline for stress like goes down significantly. You're way more irritable. You might experience withdrawal symptoms, and you basically effed yourself over. Put it that way.
No, it's a good point still, but you gotta it's sort of like why they tried to regulate it and put an age restriction on it. So those people that are accessing that, they should not, by law anyway, they should not be doing that. You know?
Yeah, this is true, but laws, right? If you look at the history of tobacco companies and how they've lobbied, they at certain points in history, America's as like a primary example, they lobbied to the point where they had doctors recommending cigarettes to patients. Okay, and this was recent history. So if you think about how law functions, yes, regulations are important, but in like a corporate law, most of the laws protect the tobacco companies' rights to sell harmful products to you, to produce harmful products. Like again, it's a critique on capitalism or like our postmodern society where individual rights are supposedly more important than collective well-being. So yes, although we put on the packet like 18 over, society is engineered into a way where you're going to start smoking before 18 anyway, and it's viable for the tobacco companies to keep it that way. Right? Why would they want to sell a pack of cigarettes to 50-year-olds exclusively? It doesn't make sense.
Okay, cool. So would you say, instead of saying you want to ban it, it should be like regulated to such a point where people that are children cannot access it? Would you say that, say there's
That's
a
not actually
25-year-old
possible.
that starts smoking at 25? Would you
Mm.
say he should still be banned from it, even though that probably is his own choice?
Well, I think it's only like 15% of all smokers ever start smoking after the age of 25, maybe even less than that. I can't remember the exact figure. But one could argue then they're not very responsible or rational at that point. If you survive to 25 and you decide to make a stupid choice, it's a different conversation. But in terms of regulation, yes, I'm pro regulation, and I actually think regulation is part of the strategy of banning. Now, it's actually impossible to stop it completely because there's always going to be other ways to access it. But to say, for instance, it'll be a multi-pronged approach, right? So the first thing you do, this is cannabis included, you'd make it illegal, but you decriminalize it. What this allows for is people to express their semblance or what they think is their right to bodily autonomy, and like this helps the people who are already smoking drugs and shit. But what you do is you make it illegal but decriminalize it. So if they're in certain spaces or caught with it, you just seize it, you give them fines or you give them mandatory education. The next thing you do is you regulate the production process of it, right, at the source, tobacco at their source, and then when cannabis fully becomes tobacco 2.0 at the source. And the type of regulations you do they're really social engineering, right? You make them reduce the quantity of nicotine in tobacco and the quantity of THC in cannabis by about 90%. So what this does is, again, the people who will continue to use these products it will be easier for them to get off, basically, because the addictive quality will be much lower. The next thing you do, you bring in a piece of legislation like the Ash Act, which generationally bans people. As it stands, you can reach a certain age and then buy it. But if the Ash Act actually goes through, no one born after 2009 will ever be able to legally buy it again. Then the last two things I think are probably the most important things. You subsidise smoking cessation services. It's like, you know how we in the UK we have the NHS, and the NHS has a stop smoking service. So that means taxpayer pounds are going to provide help for people who are already addicted to like tobacco and other substances. And basically, by subsidising smoking cessation services, you make it easier for people to access help to quit also. Then the last thing you do is social engineering, right? Which is creating media campaigns, movies, posters, open discourse, right? Showing people real life cases, like look at this person's granddad and their COPD and their emphysema, look at this child, what his outcomes, look at the socioeconomic disproportionate outcomes. Like people are born in let's say council estates in our country or lower poor working class, they become 3 to 4 times more likely to be dependent on these drugs, which then becomes responsible for poor education outcomes, poor legal outcomes, basically disproportionate criminalization, poor health outcomes, disproportionate deaths for poor and ethnic people. All of that would be part of social engineering to eventually make it so smoking isn't something that society actually wants to do. So you remove the desire, then it's easier to remove it from the market. But yes, regulation would be a part of banning it, in my view.
Yeah, would you also, okay, cool. Yeah, no, the thing is I actually agree with it. I think smoking should be either regulated or banned myself. I'm just basically playing devil's advocate, but it's like, would you also say with that logic that you'd ban like something like boxing as well? Because I could make a very good argument that the utility of it is not worth the damage that it can cause.
Yes, you could make that argument, but that would be in the context of tobacco production, sale and consumption. It would be a completely different type of topic, but the harm principle is important there. But yeah, it would be a completely different type of topic.
So based on like your logic, would you ban boxing as well?
No, it's not the same type of thing. That's what I'm saying to you. It's like it's not the same type of thing at all.
Why not?
Because it's a different action for one, right? If you're talking about smoking a cigarette versus like consensual combat sports, they're two different things. One would say in a debate setting it's a red herring. It has nothing to do with the other thing.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a red herring. I mean, they're both things that that have been, studied and can cause harm, and
This is true.
then
That's
it's
true.
both like about like the utility of what it brings to society and also the harm, and it's like you can measure, but so I don't think it's a red herring in that sense.
It is a red herring, right? So I'll give you an example. It's in cultural context, we describe that as a whataboutism, right? So if for instance we're talking about smoking and then someone comes in and goes, oh, what about alcohol? Or in your example, what about boxing, right? I would acknowledge, yes, there's an overlap in terms alcohol is also an intoxicant, but it's a different substance. Boxing is also harmful, but it's a different action. Okay, so in an analogy, what you're actually doing with your argument although it's designed to test consistency, right? What you're actually
Yeah.
doing is saying this, right? You've got a sister or a wife, right? You go to pick up your sister or your wife from their workplace, and you see your sister or your wife arguing with the boss, and they're saying to the boss, "Hey, I'm experiencing sexism at work, and here's how it's affecting me." Then the boss turns around and says, "Well, what about racism? What about ageism? What about homophobia?" Right? What is the boss actually doing? He's dismissing the actual issue that your sister or your wife is presenting to him and saying, "What about this? What about that?" Yes, those things are harmful too, but they're not what we're addressing. You know?
Yeah. If I run my society based on that logic, then a lot of things you'd have to ban it. So it's like that way of thinking for society. If we was to run with that, then it wouldn't be good or sound, I should say.
No, not necessarily, right? I think it depends. You would have to keep in context what it is you're trying to regulate and why. What are the reasons behind it? Right. If you're
To be
talking,
honest with you, maybe alcohol was a better example. So like
yeah, it's a similar
if
example.
one was to try and ban like smoking but not alcohol, then it's like, what are we really doing?
Well, I'll put it to you like this, right? The tobacco plant itself has actually now been demonstrated to be carcinogenic, right? So the plant itself is dangerous. Okay? Now, in the tobacco plant, you can extract nicotine. Nicotine can be used in various medications and all types of other things. So the act of using nicotine for different things is fine, it's permissible. But the act of smoking to gain nicotine isn't necessarily permissible. Same thing could be said about alcohol, right? Alcohol could be used industrially. It can be used in medicines. It could be used in cleaning solvents, etc. Right? What is alcohol? It's fermentation of vegetables and fruits and shit. So the thing itself isn't necessarily bad. It's the way in which you interact with it, what you're doing with it, which is what's concerning. Right? So from that point of view, in terms of consistency, yes, I would be pro banning alcohol on a recreational use type of thing, because it's the same type of psychoactive substance, but it's just not the issue that I'm giving my attention to. If that makes sense.
Okay, true. Okay, cool. If we was to regulate again, no, I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate, but it's like if I was to regulate this thing, and I regulate it in the sense where you can access that if you're a child, and I use like what you said, like social engineering. I might use I might like reform my law system. I might maybe like make some like a task force that cracks down on it or whatever it is, and I actually reformed it to a point where in the next, I don't know, 5 decades, it's mainly people that are over the age of 21 that begin smoking. Um, would that would that be something that you do, or is it just like you want it banned, like how you said you want it banned?
I think that's an interesting strategy. I think it might have some benefits, but it would also have some drawbacks in terms of funding it. One would argue it would be analogous to what America tried to do with prohibition, but I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for like overnight. This is illegal, and just like overnight change. Like, no, I'm talking about generational difference in society. So I'm not quite sure. But actually, maybe I'd even answer what you said. So do you want to say it again?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, no, makes sense. Makes sense. This humans invented God. Why do you think that?
Or is it
Even though I agree with
speed
it,
running
I ain't got
topics?
anything against God.
Jesus Christ. Here you go.
Yeah, no, obviously there's no point sticking on it. Like if I agree with it, there's not really much point. So next topic, innit?
Like fair. You could also introduce a topic if you'd like. I'm open to speaking about or debating anything, so I don't mind. Yeah, it's Dark Souls.
Yeah, my internet. But yeah, I was saying, why do you think humans invented God?
I think there are three primary reasons why humans invented God, and they can be kind of traced throughout history in the various iterations. And the first is down to survival, the second is to give meaning or explanation, and the third is for societal cohesion. They're the reasons I think humans invented God. And they're quite supportable. But in terms of in simple terms, there's not enough evidence that gods exist independently of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do you think gods don't exist though?
So yeah, it is basically that, but I believe humans invented God because they always invented in humans' image. So it's like someone from like Arabia, yeah, the Holy Land. It just happens to be that the Holy Land is there, and all the names of the people and the thing are like Semitic. And then if I look at the people in flipping Fiji, their one is like it reflects their culture and their society. And if I look at this one, so I don't know what her name was. There's one creator on here, and basically she talks about like the anthropology of like religion and different cultures, like a nomadic culture. Their god will be a certain way, and then like um, a more like a different like
Well,
a pastoralist. Their god will be a certain way, basically. So it's always in like your own image and like it reflects your own culture. So you're not gonna have like back then in 2000 years ago, you're not going to have like the people um in the Bible like driving flying cars, is it? Like if you talk about it, the animals are like camels and horses, and that was there back in their society.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that, and I follow the same kind of thinking, to be honest.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
do
no argument.
do you want to
Yeah,
introduce an argument, something that you might think we disagree? Actually, was it you that had the Agent Smith theory thing up the other day?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was, yeah.
I never got to hear the actual theory. You guys started to get into bloody manosphere chat, so I'd like to hear the theory.
Um, I basically, I'm still trying to Well, I created the Agent Smith theory. Well, not I didn't create it. I guess I like appropriated it from the Matrix film. But essentially, some people um they it's like I guess it's to an extent, but it's like they don't have any thoughts of their own. All of their thoughts are as a result of like the media they see online. Yeah, and obviously one can make an argument that this is all of us, but
Hmm.
how is it that I don't know how is it that I can um one day, I stand with Ukraine. Yeah, then everyone puts the Facebook thing, and then everyone's got the Ukraine flag in there, and then there's like the next thing, then there's a mass hysteria on that, and then it's like the mass hysteria is cycled, and it's just cycled. It's like an Agent Smith. It's like if you're not thinking for yourself, then I can put out a piece of information and control you on how you're thinking, and I can now get you to hate someone else at will. You know,
Hmm.
you might even think of like the great replacement might even be a good example of that.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of things like that. I also
Yeah.
think,
And I'm not saying that I'm immune to propaganda. No human is. Like
yeah,
we're
legit,
all like subject to influence.
legit.
But it's some more than others.
No, I would definitely agree, but for a variety of reasons. But just as as an aside, even our like say our counterpoints or our counter narrative or our counter analysis also contribute to that same type of controlling of the zeitgeist. Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, yeah. I guess there's some people that are like just as radical but on the other side, I guess. And yeah, you can make an argument that they're all like it's like an Agent Smith just in a different way. I don't
yeah.
know.
So once whoever's steering the public psyche, right? For us, or if we'd say us, right? We're the people who kind of ignore the media cycle, or at least if we engage with it, we try to be critical about it a bit. We are basically so there's this view that when you produce a piece of media, media primarily is propaganda. That's kind of the point of it. But we're in a stage now of media where we create constructs, we synthesize constructs, and those constructs actually create reality. When prior it was more like we're reporting on reality through these constructs. Now we create reality through these constructs, e.g., by throwing out propaganda and telling people this is how way the world is, or this is how you should think. Then the sheep, like you describe them, go out into the world and actually bring it into fruition. But the minute the people that are running that whole scheme put a new plot on the table and you've got like a bunch of people running around talking about whatever it is, Brexit or fucking restore, whatever the issue of the day is, Jason our day, right? The minute that's in the public psyche, we as people who are maybe counter narratives also contribute to it, because now the awareness of it has been raised in us also, so we're kind of sucked into it as well. You know but that's just
Yeah, I
yes,
guess
that's just
so.
one point. But yeah,
Yeah, I guess so. But it's just, yeah, 2024. I haven't forgot there was literally race riots, and it was obviously started by that man in Cardiff that obviously unalived some children very horrifically.
is that 2024?
Yeah, well, there were definitely some race riots in 2024.
Time's going quick, bro.
Time's gone quick, man. And then like it's like, and then I believe there was maybe a football event. It might have been the Euros, or it might have been like 2026, and it's like everything's forgotten about. And it's like just not even that long ago, there was literally race riots. So it's like you can use media to cause a mass hysteria and and divide people. And obviously, I'm of the thing where, like, as humans, obviously, we have the in-group, out-group psychology. So,
Mm.
if I can now make you hate your fellow man just within in a very short space of time, I'd argue with media, then it's like flipping hell, man.
Yeah, but again, it's like what is interesting is why the people follow these things. It goes back to who gets to establish reality, like who gets to set up the epistemic framework of what is knowledge and what isn't knowledge, who holds authority, who governs officialdom, and the people who like capitulate to these traditions are the people who are most affected by the swaying and the moving of the narrative. But people who are more inclined to challenge authority and challenge, how do you know that's true? Who gets to decide that's true? Well, we're prone to suffer in society, so like obviously it'd be narcissistic to think, oh look, we're fucking Neo and everyone's Agent Smith. But in the same Matrix analogy, we're just the guys that decided to go into the cave and suffer more and suffer more into the cave. So we're kind of like we would all right. So on the like whole kind of view, right? We would all be inside of Plato's cave, right? But becoming aware, like becoming Neo, would just mean that you went outside of the cave a little bit. But there's still another level outside of that as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess because even in the Matrix, I think like the argument is that the
What's this guy
argument of the
doing?
Matrix is that Neo is basically they're still in the Matrix, but they're just in another part of it because they couldn't accept like having a normal life. So the Matrix created them like a different life where they think they're actually doing something, but they're not.
There you go. That's an excellent
That's
way
what
to
I
say
mean.
it. That's an
Yeah.
excellent way to say it. Because what happens in the end? What in the fourth one? They're back in the
Oh wait,
in the
what was
fucking
it? Yeah,
Matrix.
I didn't watch that. Didn't even watch that one. Still, I need to watch that. I need to watch that still.
They're literally back.
But yeah, I feel like there's some like trilogies or there's some like just leave it alone, man. It was good at the end, but they have to just do a money grab, isn't it? But yeah, I actually need to
True,
watch that fourth Matrix movie.
true. That is true. Like Matrix,
Yeah,
it's a great story, but it also was a money grab too. Like initially.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
the
man.
politics that come out of it, the whole Sophia Stewart and then those two twins becoming transgenders, and it's a lot. There's a lot going on behind that.
That sounds like a lot. I don't even know about all that, bro.
Oh, so the original story of the Matrix was produced, well, written by this black woman called Sophia Stewart. There was
Oh
these
yeah.
the two Australian twins, I think. I don't know if they're Australian or not. But basically, they took the idea and developed it into the film that we know, the franchise that we know. Right? Then various other interesting things unfolded out of that. But yeah, now those two men previously before are two sisters. Two brothers are now two sisters, I believe. Okay, so
Oh shit.
there's strange things happening. Now this isn't me saying that like that's a bad thing, but it's just all right. So the Sophia Stewart lady. Now look, I'm going too deep into conspiracy rabbit hole. Let's just leave it. Let's just leave it alone.
Yeah, man.
Let's just leave
Yeah.
it alone.
Smith Fury. All right, bro. Have a good day, man.
so, yeah,
Yeah, next time, man.
in a bit.
Cool, man.
I did, yeah. I can't really articulate what I actually want to say about that view, but I do think it's very true. Anyone could just be turned into an Agent Smith at any given time, but that also goes for Neo as well. That's all I was trying to describe. Why do I believe the first prompt? Well, I'm convinced of it because there doesn't seem to be evidence that's contrary. What's up, bro?
Oh yeah, so
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Right, so what was you saying in the comments?
I wanted to ask you why you believe the first prompt that you have.
Yeah, because I think there's plenty of evidence of humans producing the concept of God and various different gods over time.
I agree. So like, if these gods are fake, would that constitute that like this god would be fake or this specific one would be fake?
What specific one? Just mean in
Yeah,
general.
you can choose any. For me personally, it'd be the Christian god.
No, I think Alright, so to me, gods are abstract concepts as a category. They're just abstract concepts. But if we were to say, is there a possibility that the attributes of one of these abstract concepts exist as the attributes of something real? Yes, there's a possibility of that. But as they stand, yeah, they're all pretty much fake from our human point of view.
Okay. So, like for you, just need like a substantial evidence to prove you wrong, or
I don't know. If you can change my mind by doing it that way, I'll be open to hearing it, sure.
I don't think I could change your mind on 6 in the morning, but I would just say that the reason I believe, as of right now, I'm an agnostic Catholic, but I'm looking into Orthodoxy. But anyways, the reason I believe as of right now would be the miracles and the apparitions that have happened in the church. The vindicatory miracles that have happened, and my base not smart knowledge of metaphysics that are pretty bad. That'll be my reason, though.
Okay. So do you count all miracles from all religions to be proof of God then, or just yours?
Well, they have substantial evidence, and many if they have the same amount and the same evidence of the amounts, then I would consider.
Why does it need to be more than one miracle? Why wouldn't one just suffice?
Because it depends what miracles we're referring to. Like if a miracle, just like if an image of some prophet of this religion showed up to the whole country, then that'll be enough, right? But one like prophecy, that could be easily like coincidence.
Or one could argue that the image of a prophet appearing to people could be explained naturally as well, so that wouldn't necessarily be proof of a miracle either.
Yes, but to a large mass, especially like when the leader of a country confirms it also, and the people that saw it were of a religion different than the prophet of that religion.
That would just be what people describe as a psyop. So
you'd think that?
Well, I put it to you like this, right? What is your definition of a miracle?
Something that has happened out of divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the correct definition.
Yeah, but I would also add that it must break with natural laws. So it must defy natural laws and happen with divine intervention. So as far as we know, all of the miracles that are reported, they don't do either of those things. So there's that. So if you were to say, right, so give an example of a miracle that breaks the natural laws and is done with divine intervention.
Oh, give you one?
Yeah.
Lady of Zaytun, or
Tell me the story
Padre
of it.
Pio. Oh, so like, okay, this is over a Coptic church in Egypt.
Mhm.
And she appeared. And this is an apparition of Mary, and she appeared over the church like weekly. And over time, hundreds of thousands of people were coming in front of the church to witness it. And there's even a photograph of it, and the president of Egypt confirmed it too.
There's a photograph
And
of
they
it.
were, yeah, and they were
So let's have a
Jewish
look.
and Muslims, and I find it pretty hard for like Muslims to just like witness it.
What's the name of it?
Lady of Zaytun,
How do you spell that?
Zeitoun. I don't know. Zei. I wouldn't.
Zeitoun, yeah.
That itself, I wouldn't say that's like 100% because like it's obviously just one miracle and it's over a Coptic church, not a Catholic church. But that's just like that's like the first one that came off the top of my head that I can remember.
Okay. I'm trying to look at it now. These pictures are pretty shitty. Obviously, they was always gonna be shitty. Hold on, I'll see if I can put the picture on the screen. Right, there it is. Right, so I would say, right, in an example like this, it doesn't actually meet the criteria for a miracle. Right? One second.
What was your criteria again?
So it breaks with natural laws and is done with divine intervention.
Okay.
Yo,
What's up, bro?
skills.
Let me just see if I can put the picture on the screen quickly. So it's this reportedly, this picture right here.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah. So
The apparition.
one of the things I would say, right, in order to conclude that something is a miracle, it would need to defeat all competing hypotheses, meaning that it would defeat all other explanations of this, right, which, just without me exhausting them, I think there are some competing explanations in terms of light and refraction and these kinds of things. And the other thing, you would need to be able to demonstrate that it actually is done with divine intervention, meaning there's a supernatural force behind it, or a metaphysical mind, if you will. Right. So it would be on you or the people who believe this to demonstrate that. But in terms of competing hypotheses, I think it wouldn't take me too many Googles just to find it.
Do you know about stigmata?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
But the Padre Pio one, I mean, I don't really. I've researched that for about like 10 minutes. Yeah, man, it was like the first two big ones that came to mind.
Yeah, so most people consider it to be a combination of optical illusion and atmospheric lighting.
You really?
Optical illusion.
Really?
What?
You think that was what's going on?
Well, I didn't see it
You know
myself.
that's getting checked by medical.
But as I said, who? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this.
Oh yeah, that, okay.
Yeah, stigmata, bro. Like that shit. To me, that's even more goofy than this.
You
But
think?
yeah,
Well, optical illusion is kind of hard because it was only there for like 3 months, and you have
no,
millions of
that was 3
witnesses.
years. It said 3 years. It appeared over a period of 3 years. Yeah, in 1968.
You think stigmata is more like less believable than Marian apparition?
Yes, because that's entirely culturally relevant based on what the religion prescribes. So if you was to assume that the crucifixion method for Jesus actually took place in that way, right, and then say, oh, there are people who are born and just magically end up having these same markings. That, to me, that seems like nonsense, right? Because I think it was not long disproven that Jesus wouldn't have been able to actually have holes through his hands because they would just tear through, so they would have had to have been in his wrists and shit like this, and in other places to hold the human body up. But even that, crucifixion was a method of murdering people by the Romans. So I don't know how you want to pass that out.
So, like the reason.
Oh, we got a delay.
So, like the reason. I don't actually know how you would pass that on. So, like, the reason.
Yo,
Sounds like he's in
everyone,
space.
mute up, bro.
So, like, the reason.
Yo, let's see. See, 1 2 1 2. Ain't got no sound here. 1 second, bro. Got some delay. Alright, stay up, guys. I'm just trying to see what's going on with the sound. Can you guys hear anything on the stream? Oh wow, it switched on the whole TV. These smart TVs are dangerous, bro. Switched on the whole TV, Jesus Christ. Alright, so yeah, the sound is working. It was feedback in someone's mic.
Oh, my profile's showing now. Okay. Oh, no, it's not. Bro.
Yeah, there's something glitchy happening.
In the past, like, few live streams have been in the past hour.
Bro, hold on a second. I'll be right back.
Is that London Wi-Fi? Somewhere Wi-Fi on.
Yo.
Yo.
Alright, so yeah, what was you saying? We have to reboot the stream, bro.
Will I restart?
Yeah, reboot the stream.
Alright.
Come back up, bro.
Yeah.
Don't know what's going on here. Alright, be right back. Alright, let me see if I can fix this thing. I don't know if it will work, but still, put ourselves on the timer now. We're going to end up dragging the whole day down. Right, what I was supposed to be doing is mining some points to then go take on the boss. Where's everybody? I just need to be able to see the request box. Yup.
My profile still doesn't show.
What are you expecting to happen?
Well, like I've been in like three live streams in like an hour. My profile hasn't shown. I don't know why.
What do you mean by showing? I don't get it.
Like, do you see my profile on your screen?
Do I see your picture?
Yeah, the picture. I saw the big the gray the gray icon.
Yeah, there's a picture of you at the bottom.
I don't know. Anyways, stigmata.
Yeah.
So, your reasoning for like it being what? Okay, wait. What was your reasoning for not believing in it?
Well, one, I haven't actually seen the thing itself. Right? I've only ever seen it in movies, to be fair with you. But I feel like this isn't something that breaks with natural laws, and it's not provable that it has any divine intervention. I think it's just culturally specific or religious specific to Christianity, so it's only meaningful to Christians.
So, okay, how would you define something as divine intervention?
Let's say, all right, if I had to give like an extreme example, right, it'd probably be a combination of things. Like, let's say, one day, what we would consider to be a god, right, transmitted a telepathic message to all humans in a language that they understand. And he said something like, well, this is like if he was actually going to set up an experiment, which is quite ridiculous, but these are the kinds of parameters that I'd be looking for. Okay? So there's a mind somewhere, or a disembodied mind, that is able to like telepathically communicate with all living beings and speak in a language that they understand. And imagine he makes a prediction. So he gives a prophecy and he says, 1 month from now, 3 weeks from now, I'm going to tweak the gravitational constants, meaning he's going to change how gravity operates for 3 seconds at this day at this time. Right? So what that would leave space for is for people to produce competing hypotheses to either defeat what's been purported to be true, right? And it would leave space for people to measure the effects of the prophecy. So something at that level, which is ridiculous, but we're talking about God here. But God would be more, I'd be more inclined to believe that as a miracle than, these things that are religious specific. Does that make sense? Because you're talking about a galactic, well, a universe level entity. Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah. Like, what? Okay, well, two things. Wouldn't so you would say like a prophecy towards the entire world?
Mm.
Like, okay, so
Not just a prophecy though, because prophecy in itself is just a prediction. But a prophecy like that would leave space to create competing hypotheses, right, that would either defeat the beliefs or confirm them, and it would also create something measurable, something tangible. Right? So we'd know on this day that the gravity is going to change, and we'd have various ways of checking it. Right? So something like that is a different level of, it's a God level of an action. Put it that way. Well,
like if somebody predicted if somebody predicted an entire person's life, is that mere coincidence?
No, it's not necessarily a coincidence. Like a prediction, when you're talking about human lives and human events, all you need to do is have a large enough data set. So no, that I wouldn't even consider that anything special.
Okay. So you said you just seen Stigmata in the movies.
Yeah, like it's something I've only ever seen in a movie.
Okay, like so if it was like researched by scientists, what would you say on that?
I'd listen to the explanation for it, why they do it, why it happens. That's what I'd say.
Okay, so like this guy who receives Stigmata after attending mass, right?
Yeah, but we don't need to add the mass bit.
Well, that was why as after it happened. Okay, so a guy who just received it, he had it and out of nowhere, and right before he died, the day before he died, he was completely healed of it.
Yeah, that sounds like nonsense. Sounds like a story that religious people say. But you got
signs
to provide
that
proof.
It was ever there or ever happened or. You can Padre Pio. Padre Pio.
What's up, A2D? So many documented instances throughout history have been exposed to self-inflicted wounds or hoaxes, psychomatic causes. Medical professionals suggest extreme psychological stress, religious fixation, and suggestion can trigger physical skin changes, blistering or spontaneous bleeding, such as psychogenic purpura. I've never heard of that. Anatomical inconsistency. Skeptics note that the traditional stigmata wounds on the palms contradict the historical Roman crucifixion methods, which is kind of what I mentioned earlier on, which typically pierce the wrists and ankles, which again is what I mentioned earlier on. So, yeah, like if you want to believe that, it's up to you. But for me, that's not even close to I wouldn't even consider it a miracle. It's just a human thing.
Well, like the whole the crucifixions. I mean, it was. I know it was both on the wrists and hands. Because I mean, they had their ankles are also what's it called, nailed down.
Say again,
Their
sorry?
entire body. Like it was on the wrists and hands because their entire body was nailed in from the the top of the whatever the foot thing's called. I forgot whatever body part it is. From the the upper sole and the ankles to the wrists and.
Yeah, but like I said, right, this is religion specific. I don't see good reasons why a universe level entity such as a god would act in those religious specific ways. That speaks to more like let's say like a cultural bias of the people reporting these things. But if you were to take a standard definition, stigmata doesn't meet a standard definition of a miracle.
Wouldn't it just like to be to prove that religion? Like I don't.
I put it to you like this, right? Religions could exist and gods not exist. Gods could exist and religions not exist. Right? So there could be millions of religions and there'd be no gods at all. Right? There could be a real god and be no religions at all. But if you're talking about like just confirming your in-group out-group bias, then yeah, like you would take anything as proof of the things you already believe. It's just confirmation bias.
Well, like somebody saying like my leg wasn't magically healed by God. Like I wouldn't just yes, that's true. Like I wouldn't believe that.
But what do you mean? Like when our legs ever magically healed? Though that's just the thing.
Well, it's like by your yeah.
It doesn't happen.
Exactly. That's why I'm not just gonna Damn.
What are you saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like you said. I wouldn't believe if somebody says God healed my leg. I wouldn't immediately believe that out of nowhere.
Yeah, but if you lean on like the authority of your in-group, e.g. like the Catholic Church, and someone's like, oh, God healed my leg, and then the Pope says, yeah, it's true, God healed his leg, then you'd probably believe it.
Depends how the Pope would say it.
But as long as there's some kind of authority or like a officialdom to the story, you'd take it as a gospel. Like if like a Muslim or a Jew said this culturally relative miracle happened in our society, would you take it to be a miracle in your being that you're in a different religion?
No. Well, that's because Islam is bad.
See?
And the Judaism is also bad.
Well, no, you can't really say that. Well, look, you can say that, but given your position that you're a Christian, like you entirely depend on Judaism, so it's kind of backwards.
Well, yes, but the stuff that they do is bad. We don't like that. Bad stuff.
What stuff do they do that is bad?
Have you ever heard of how do I pronounce it? I always forget. Bipe? Like I forgot to pronounce it.
No.
Do you know how they do you know how they take the foreskin off of the male genitalia?
Oh yes, I've heard about that. Yeah, that's kind of creepy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy, but like the history of Catholicism and the Catholic Church isn't like, you know, exactly the most non PDF history. So
that's why I'm live about this. That's why I'm researching Orthodoxy.
Well, look,
miscellaneous.
Whenever you start talking about these cultures, right, and the things that they do, there's going to be things that we would consider maladaptions or just bad things in them, because they would be culturally or ideologically opposed to things we think are right and good now. Okay, so it's just an expression of in-group, out-group politics. Although I agree with you, yes, like doing that to a baby is crazy. It doesn't mean that they are that doesn't inform the veracity of their religion. Put it that way. Just like
I agree.
yeah, so
I was also gonna add about like they just like deny like a bunch of things that like are true. So you know, like, Islam just denies the crucifixion, which is like
yeah.
just like get out of here. And like
well, like bro, Jews do too.
and they also like just they like deny like they deny like big prophecies, which are like undisputable.
What prophecy is undisputable?
So I want to ask, like, why do you think humans invaded God? Like, what's your point of it?
I think there's more evidence of humans inventing God throughout history
So how do you
in
think,
comparison to God's
because-
existing independently of humans.
but how do you think like the all world and it's all like it's just created perfect?
How do you
And
think
how do you
the
think
all
like
world
how do you think how it could be created then?
Say again?
Like how do you think there were a big bang or whatever, or what's your point? Like, do you think everything came to this complexity and perfection only because of, I don't know, such a thing?
So, right. So perfection is not a real thing. It's just a concept. There's no such thing as perfection.
Yeah, but you think that all existence, nature,
the
humans,
the next thing,
animals.
The next thing is complexity doesn't imply creation. Right? So things like natural selection can show you how complexity arises without anybody involving itself in it. So there's that.
So you think that it would happen alone, everything?
Say again?
Like, you think it would happen out of nowhere?
No, I don't think that. I don't think that's even a possibility.
I mean, then who created it then? When
It doesn't mean someone has to create it either.
And how do you think that, I don't know, it's respawn? It's
So,
like just
so
out
for
of there?
instance, right? You could say,
Ah, it was stupid.
I'll put it this way: no one can say for certain what the true nature of reality is, right? As we're a part of the universe, we can't necessarily have a model that explains the universe because we're part of it. So no one, scientist or theologian, can really make a certain claim about what the origin of the universe is and where it all comes from. Science can get way closer than theology can, but no one can make a certain statement about that. So when you start talking about this, you'd do well to just say, all right, I don't know for certain, but this is the information I have. So based on the information I have, it's more probable to believe that there was always something rather than there was ever being nothing. Right? Nothing is literally just a negation of things.
And how did something have begin? Everything has to have beginning.
No,
and
it doesn't.
end.
No, it doesn't.
How it would happen?
That's
what do you think?
That's what I'm saying to you. No, it's not necessary that everything must begin in like a linear form, right? But then, because if you think that way, then you also have to say, well, God begun sometime then.
Because even in the Bible it says that first the word was first, so the word was spoken. So there were beginnings.
That's the beginning of the Bible. But then if you actually think about it, right, what is a word? Word has everything to do with humans and human communication. If a God is like a singular entity that exists outside of space and time,
maybe
hear what I'm saying. No, hear what I'm saying. If a God,
but maybe before it was different.
If a
Only
God
knows.
right here, that's the key, right? If God existed as some entity outside of space and time, like alone, he's just the Alpha, Omega, he's all things, there is no one to communicate with. So there's no need for a word. So the logos is actually what has been spoken about in the beginning.
And he literally used words.
And out of the logos,
a world.
out of the logos, you can create worlds, right? So yes, this is true, but this is true for humans. This has nothing to do with the way the world was created. This has everything to do with like metaphoric or how you put allegorical text that humans write, but nothing to do with how the world was created. Like, obviously, the world can't come out of words, but if you're talking about constructs like language, like food, like culture, like religion, yes, these are things that come out of words. So yes, but the universe itself, so I'll put it to you like this: if God is a spirit, meaning he's not physical, how does a spirit produce a physical material reality? Okay.
Because he can do everything. Like he.
What? So you would probably enjoy comic books then, if that is the case. If that is what your view collapses into, then why bother thinking about this all?
Okay, if you think God's not, if you don't believe in God's existence, then how what do you think about, like, you literally cannot say, like, I can say that God saved my life, and you literally have no idea about it, and just how you can think that, and how you can, like, just don't believe in it.
Wait, I didn't get what you're trying to say.
Like, okay, I'm sorry, also English is not my first language. Like, I am Polish, and also my Polish and German are my native languages. But
I wouldn't
anyway,
have even guessed you're Polish, to be fair. But
yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
continue.
yeah, what I want to say is, like, if you like, we have a lot of examples that God changed people's life or even saved them, or we have a lot of miracles. Even in Orthodox Church, there are a lot of saints, and they, even on, like, based on their life, we can see that God is really, and that He changed life, or He can save someone, and you just think that all of
Alright,
it
so
is fake,
I'll give you an
or what?
example, right? Can you prove that I have a mind? Can you prove that anyone has a mind?
Yeah, we can prove it.
How would you prove it?
I mean, if you are a thinking creature, if you are a thinking being, then it's obvious that you have a mind, and that it's
No, it's
in
not.
entire its complexity. It doesn't came out of nowhere.
No, it's not, right? So, for instance, right, can you prove that I'm not a zombie or I'm not a mutant?
Yeah, because I don't know, even science can prove it.
No, it can't. Right? Anyway, look, I'm taking you down. I'm
How you
taking you
can?
down the wrong kind of road to get to this, right? So I'll explain. I'll explain it like this, right? I'll explain it like this. Okay. No one can actually look into the mind of someone else and describe their experience, the quality or what it is like to live their life, right? No one can tell you that the things you are reporting that you experience aren't so. They may be able to critique what you reported, right? So
When they were.
this is what I'm getting to. But your ability to report something doesn't make it a reality, a shared reality for all of us. So the example I was trying to give to you, right? A philosophical zombie is someone who doesn't have an internal world, right? They don't have an internal monologue. They don't have an internal, like, a mental world, right? They don't think about things. They're just autonomous. They're like a robot. A philosophical mutant is somebody who does experience the world, but they experience it inverse. So, like, when they see red, they experience blue, right? When they feel hot, they experience cold. Okay, mentally, you can't actually prove that what's going on in someone's brain is the same as yours. We have to make assumptions that this is true, but it's obviously not the case. Okay, so all I'm saying is, just because you can report your experience about reality, it doesn't mean it is a reality.
Okay, but what when this experience covered a lot of people? For example, there were a miracle in Fatima, and there were three
Yeah,
kids
we
who
just went
experienced the
we
same.
went over that.
So what?
Well,
So what do you like?
actually, if you
It's not
start
any
to,
more personal experience. It's
yeah,
It's experience of a group of people.
yes, but we've been through that miracle before, and as we started to examine it, we started to realize one kid reports one thing, another kid reports another thing. One's like, I saw it, I heard it, and the other one's like, no, I didn't hear it, but I saw it, and all these little variations, they speak to their own perception of the situation, not the
I
objective
mean, not even
reality.
this miracle, but also there are a lot of different ones, even on in Orthodox Church.
Yeah, so these miracles, with all due respect, right, they're religion specific. If you was looking for like a neutral type of miracle, it would have to be something that's on a universal level, right? Not just Christians believe this, Orthodox believe this, Jews believe this, Muslims believe this. Why doesn't the Muslim believe the Christian miracle? Why doesn't the Christian believe the Muslim miracle? Why doesn't the Buddhist believe the Hindu miracle, right? These things have everything to do with your religions and, like, confirming your biases.
Yeah, but for me, it's then how would you explain it, that why Jesus is so hated in
I
today's
have
society,
a
in the
question.
modern society?
I don't think Jesus is hated, but go on, who said that?
I said that was me.
What's up?
My question was like, so how would you explain like a life to be like? Wouldn't life be considered itself a miracle?
No.
Are you sure? Like us having a moon in the sky that controls like the ocean and the tides,
So
a
maybe
sun
you should define a
in our
miracle.
galaxy.
Define a
Huh?
miracle.
A miracle would be the fact that living organisms could live on this planet.
That's not a
That
miracle.
would be considered. Why?
Right, so like a standard definition of a miracle is something that breaks or departs from the natural laws but is done with divine intervention. Planets existing, humans existing, all are permitted by the natural laws. So they're not miracles. They're expected.
They're expected.
Yeah.
So nothing. So nothing is a miracle then.
Well, yes, essentially this is kind of the problem. This is literally what we're discussing here.
So by that logic, that means everything would be predestined.
Well, you could argue that too, but that's more of a philosophical take. What even right? So
Yeah.
scientifically, you could actually argue that as well. There's scientific determinism, but that's a different conversation. If you want to have it, I'm open to it.
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like there is always room for a timeline to change. Um, I don't think things are always for sure set in stone.
Okay.
I like to chime in.
Yeah, sure.
Nice chat with you for the wake up my morning. But it
I
looks like you're
appreciate
talking
it.
to these two guys, so I'll head out though.
Oh, no, you can say if you want, but I do appreciate you coming up, bro. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh, I
in
dropped.
the morning I got a job in school, so yeah.
All right, bro. Thank you for coming up.
Yeah, see. Maybe in the future.
Arm wrestling wolf. Go look up the definition and come back and tell me if that's the correct definition. But yes, Alexandra and Unbox. Yes.
Unbound.
What?
Yeah.
Unbound. Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Feel free to.
I just
chime
pronounced
in.
it with the X. You said humans invented God. I would also somewhat agree because God could be perceived as a social construct. But why smoking should be banned?
Hey, why smoking should be banned?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. That smoking should be banned. Like it's illegal in Poland to smoke weed, and I agree with it. Like I strongly support it.
Whoa. So guys, are you experiencing some
Yeah.
delay on the stream? Can you hear me when I'm speaking?
Yes.
Alexandra, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but in general, I don't know. There's such a echo that I can hear near to nothing. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you, but in general.
It's an echo.
All right, so I'm bound you mute for a second. Alexandra, speak. Alexandra?
Yeah.
All right, so if I speak...
No.
Oh, it's the echo is happening on your end, Alexandra. I don't know why, though. So if I speak...
No.
Oh, it's the echo is happening on your end, Alexandra, drop down and come back up, all right? Request back up. I'm bound. You there, bro?
I want to hear like some of your opinions on why do you think smoking should be banned?
I think it does more harm than good, ultimately. I think you could even argue that the production, sale and consumption of tobacco products is immoral. Also cannabis, but that's a different conversation. Well, not really, but yeah.
I mean, I strongly agree with that because for me, I think in general, alcohol and drugs, smoking, weed, cigarettes, it should be all illegal and banned, in my opinion.
I agree. I'll agree with that take.
I mean, it's just poison. It's poison for your health. It's poison for your physique. I got the point. If something doesn't support me, I'm climber, I'm hiker. So for me, my physique is very important. And if I see that any food or in general like addiction, which would cause me harm or lower my physique potential, then of course I'm against it.
That's good. At least
And I
you're
think
aware.
sugar should be banned too. I mean, I don't eat processed sugar.
Well, processed sugar. So you put a clarification on that.
I mean, fruits are okay and those like natural sugars, but if
Yeah.
it's go to processed stuff in general, processed food, I mean, I think personally, like governments created it to just like earn some money later on a medical healthcare system. So that's my
Well,
point.
you're half right, but it wasn't governments. It was just people. It's like businessmen and shit. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Chefs.
That's right.
Chefs.
But why also then why governments allow some like those big brands to exist?
This is true.
Because of course they want money. If we don't know what it was, then it's about money, and they just want to earn most like the highest amount how it's possible.
So yeah, this is true. Right. So like refined. I think if you call it refined sugars or like basically right. The way that we consume sugar-based products, it is harmful, or the way we produce them is harmful.
Yeah, I mean,
But
especially
but sugar in
I
itself isn't actually a harmful thing. Glucose as a chemical isn't harmful. It's just the
yeah,
types
I know that.
types we eat.
But I think it's better to consume it like in a natural way. For example, through eating fruits or drinking a juice or something like that. But also, I know in United States, it's kind of for me it's crazy. And like as Europeans, we joke about it a bit. Because for example, in United States, like those food is so chemical. I'm sorry to say that, but if I'm watching like anything, any vlog from supermarkets when Polish people or Europeans go there, I'm like, I have cultural shock. Like, why something like that exists? Like, if they call it really a food, I would think that it's radioactive at first.
Yeah, America has like really lax regulation laws on their food, so they can get away with making all kinds of
Yeah,
bad
so I
stuff.
think like in this case, yeah, Europe have like strict laws when it's going to food, cosmetics, in general, beauty products also. But in the United States, like really, when I watch, when I hear something about it, or when I watch, then I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't consider it as a food, in my opinion. Like, I think there's more, yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. But I'm not entirely against sugar, but you know, like you say, highly processed junk foods, I would be for banning those also. All right, so if you're listening out there and you have any opinions on whether humans invented God, smoking should be banned, or that racism is worse than classism, feel free to request up. We are
Okay,
on
and
TikTok, SetWest10.
in general, why you think like racism is worse? Because for me as a sociology student, it's a quite interesting point.
Well, I think so there are elements of classism that play into the invention of racism, but the effects of racism are worse than the effects of classism.
I would say depends, because for example in Poland we have quite I don't want that it sounds I know unpolite, but in Poland like we don't really have like like all the people are from same race, like 99.9% I would say.
You have a homogenous society.
I mean, we are like, I don't want. Then I would say we don't have the case of racism like so visible like in United States, because like all the people are same race, and then I mean classism in Poland, I mean that's a huge problem. So I just don't. It's for me kind of interesting.
Eastern Europe historically does have racism in terms of, well, let's not say racism in, well, actually, yes, we can say racism in terms of different ethnic groups, right? And
I mean,
ethnic
yeah, Polish
cleansing
people.
throughout Eastern
I
Europe. So
mean,
you do have a history of racism kind of amongst yourselves.
yeah, even we were persecuted by Germans during World War II, and I find like okay, it's racism too, because they try to kill Polish people because they were Polish, and it's kind of racism too. But also I don't think that classism also is something like smaller issue.
Okay, explain your reasoning.
Because, for example, because of classes, people who are, let's say, lower in a society position, then they can experience, like, literally they can get abandoned from the society. And when you are as a as a humans, we are, I can say, we just need other people around us. And when those people are getting, like, let's say, uh, kicked out a bit out of society because of their class level, if I can call it like that, then I think it's quite similar. It can cause similar damage, like racism, or even worse. Or
I mean, look, I acknowledge the damage that classism can do, but I wouldn't say it's as bad as racism. I think, obviously, given that you are, I'm assuming, white Polish, it's not something that's actually that you have experience of. Classism, you
yeah, that's
definitely
right.
do,
Right. Yeah,
but
yeah, that's I agree.
in your
That's why
sociology
I have, like,
studies,
nothing. Mm,
in your sociology studies, I'm pretty sure at some point you're going to come across something called intersectionality, and you're going to find out that basically your gender, your ability, your disability, your race, your class, and your ethnicity are all going to play into your, let's say, your social reality.
yeah, I know.
So the more of these disadvantages that start to stack on each other is the worse it gets. So for you,
Yeah, that's why
you may
I
know,
never.
yeah, you may know the experience of being a woman and being in a lower class, but you don't necessarily know what it'd be like to be a black woman in a lower class with a disability. So there's a range of how it's expressed. I'm not saying that you should be like participating in some struggle Olympics or persecution Olympics, but I think the position that you'd be critiquing from, you don't. Well, let's just put it like this: you're operating from a certain type of privilege because of how racism functions.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I'm, like, against it. I don't support racism in any way, because I find it, as a Christian, I find it just wrong. Because every human has the same value in my eyes, and I
Well, that
wouldn't say that someone is worse or better. We are all on the same level,
well,
and even though,
that's
like,
kind of
classes
untrue though.
exist,
From
yeah, I
like so
know,
in
but
a Christian from a Christian perspective, right? So you realize that right, there's two elements to this, right? Religions cannot be egalitarian. You cannot be equal in religion, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Muslim. Any religion that has a monotheistic God, right, meaning there's one God and then it has prophets, it's already established a hierarchy, like class, right? So at that point, people within the religious structure cannot be egalitarian in that way. They're not all equal, right? God has favorites and he has people he doesn't like. This is just
why
this
do you
is
think God
religiously
have favorites?
because it's
God,
true.
God doesn't have
God
favorites.
has chosen people and he has heathens, right? People he doesn't like, right? In religion.
No, just it's how you feel about it.
No,
If you are not a
this is what
believer,
religion.
and that's
This is no. This is just a matter of fact. All right. So if you trace to the roots of Christianity, it comes from Judaism, right? And why is Judaism
yeah, I know.
significant? Because God made a covenant with Abraham and Abraham's kin, right?
Yeah, I
So
know. I mean,
this,
Israelis,
all right.
they are
So
like chosen people
this
in the Bible.
establishes
I know,
a
but
hierarchy, which
but in
regardless
Old
of what
Testament and in
Jesus
New
may say,
Testament, Jesus preached that you should love everyone the same.
yes,
And why?
yes, that's a fine belief to hold, right? But it's not how religion actually structured. So after Jesus dies, you get a bunch of Romans essentially who go and encapsulate Jesus's ideas and produce the New Testament along with other people's ideas too. But what do? They create Christianity, which is also a hierarchical structure, given how
But why you? But
Catholicism worked, right? But kind of getting back to the point, which I'm almost distracted from, is also Christianity via what it becomes through Catholicism is one of the thriving or the generative principles of racism. So when
why
race
you think so?
no
Like,
yes
I mean,
like historically if you go and research the papal bull and the doctrine of discovery,
okay,
these are
but
mandates given by the Catholic Church which support racism as an actual legit
I wouldn't.
they
I don't think.
legitimize racism, put it that way.
Okay. Okay, but I just say I don't think Catholicism. I'm Orthodox, so I don't agree fully with Catholicism as well. But I just want to say that I don't think that they are racist. Because, for example, when I attained, like, before Orthodoxy, I was 3 times in a Catholic church, like, for English speakers, because my ex-boyfriend wasn't a Polish citizen, so of course we went there. And I mean, they were, I don't know if I can say something like that, but they were people of a different skin color, and they were most of them, like, I was maybe one, yeah, me and my ex-boyfriend, we were two, or maybe there were also one more person who were white. And I mean, everywhere, everyone treated like each other good. I mean, we have talk after mass, and
Yeah.
everyone was so kind. And I don't think that it's racist.
No,
Like, I
no,
have no
don't
problem
get me
to.
wrong. I'm not saying individual Christians or individual Muslims and individual Jews are racist. No, we're talking about the structure. Okay, so yes,
Yeah, and
you
I
can
find structure
you can
is
be
wrong.
could be a
I don't find it
like
right.
Martin Luther
I
King was a
mean,
bloody Christian, right? Like there's
yeah, and I agree with you
right.
that I think
So
this is what I don't like. But like, I don't like just that some Christians are like racism, because later people think that we all are like that. And personally, I think that it's just wrong. And I think that Jesus loves everyone the same, because God created us as a on his image. So everyone is like created on a God's image. So why somebody should be
well, no,
better or
this
worse?
obviously, but that's what I'm saying. Obviously, this isn't true, right? And it wasn't in his images; it was in our image, whoever the R was, which is dubious. But like I just said, right? If there's a monotheistic religion, then there's like a top down hierarchy. There's a top dog, then there's his favorites, then there's everybody else. Okay, so you as an individual Christian can believe whatever the hell you want to believe, but what the actual religion prescribes isn't
No, but
egalitarian.
orthodoxy is not racist.
I'm not saying it's racist. All right, anyways, we'll move on. All right. Christian, what's up, bro?
What's up, bro? So I just want, I did something stuck out, the smoking thing. I just like, what are your, like, I guess opinions on like alcohol or other things in, I don't really know how to ask that question. I'm not a very great debater.
No,
I'm
it's
bored.
okay. Look, are you asking me, do I think alcohol should also be banned?
Yeah.
For recreational consumption, yes.
Well, in other, what do you, okay, you said in recreational consumption. What other situations do you think alcohol? I'm just trying
You can
to
use alcohol for
understand.
industrial processes and manufacturing. You can use alcohol in
Yeah.
medicines and cleaning products, etc.
Okay.
There are other things you can use alcohol for. I think you can even run types of engines of alcohol too. So there are a bunch of things you could use it for.
Good point. Now the smoking thing. What's your thought process? I mean, I'm sure it's pretty obvious why someone would, consider
I
them
think it is
wanting
obvious.
smoking banned, but like,
I think the production,
is that
sale, and
just-
consumption of tobacco products and also cannabis products are predatory and harmful. So that's the primary reason. Or reasons.
Understandable.
Man, where did I
I don't
lose
know,
those
man. Like I
points?
said, I'm just bored.
Fair.
Have a great day.
I appreciate you for coming up. Alexandra. Still there? Alexandra.
Right, I'm gonna disconnect because something is like wrong with it.
Okay. But yeah, like I wasn't saying obviously wasn't saying the religion itself is racist, although you could make an argument for that. I'm just simply saying, although you have this like let's say this modern view of Christianity that is like peace and love and welcoming for everybody, that's not the ideology that it purports.
I mean,
initially.
why? Okay, so what's your? Why do you think so? Like, I still don't get the point. Why would you think so that orthodoxy or in general? I don't mean any other denomination. I'm an Orthodox, so I speak it from an Orthodox person perspective. and we are like, my religion is definitely not racist.
Yeah, so again, I'm not saying your religion is racist. That's not
Yeah,
what,
but
that's not what I'm saying.
you
So
wanna prove me that Christianity is
it's that you,
racist.
the critique uh, overall is about the view of egalitarianism, that everyone is equal. Right? Religions don't provide that critique. They create in-group, out-group politics by virtue of them existing. So from there is a religion, and you're in that religion, you have already decided that everyone isn't equal because you've chosen to be in a group. Right? Does that
I
make
mean,
sense?
everyone can join there. It's not like, I don't know, closed group or something. So I wouldn't call it
Yes,
like that you are chosen or whatever.
it's not a closed group, but how the Abrahamic faiths function, they function like imperialism. Okay, so the point of imperialism is to expand influence and control of one set of people into other lands. Okay, Judaism functions like imperialism. Christianity functions like imperialism. Islam functions like imperialism. And then when you actually look at it historically, right, the religion is usually used, or the beliefs, the base beliefs in the religion are used to justify the exploitation and destruction of peoples who aren't in that religion or don't look like those people. So that's where the view is building out of. Okay? So yes, you could say, oh yeah, that black guy is my fellow brother because he's Christian, but only if he capitulates to what we do and how we see things. If he doesn't, then he's a heathen, and then we have the right to do what we
No, I
want.
wouldn't say that. I mean, I
You
have
no,
nothing
you
against.
as an individual, but how the machine of religion functions is that.
Yeah, and I don't agree fully with it either, because
Okay.
I don't find that every Christian do everything right, and I don't find that they do all of things right. That's why I'm trying my best to at least have my morals right and to treat everyone the same. But I mean, I cannot take like responsibility for entire every Christian you met or every
No,
Christian you
you're
had
not.
experience
You're
with.
not supposed to, right? And one could argue it's not even your job to treat everyone equal. Right? Who said it is your job to do that? Okay,
Yeah, but
it's a
it's
brilliant
but
ideal,
otherwise. Mhm.
but it's not necessarily a reality of how nature functions. Nature doesn't.
Yeah, but it
Nature
should.
is
I mean,
impartial. It doesn't care. Well, I guess to nature we are equal, but as humans, there's always going to be something that creates a. I'm this type of person, and by virtue of me being this type of person, I am not that type of person. I'm pro this ideology, and I'm against that ideology. That's always going to exist. So, for instance, there's like this view about unity but under force, which is like one of the biggest reasons why like crazy conspiracy theorists come like gun nuts and shit. If there is an external force that has to push people to be together, then those people aren't actually together for the sake of being together. They are united against an enemy. And once that enemy disappears, we go back to tribalism, we go back to in-group, out-group politics, we go back into politics itself. So in the view of religion, right, it would be a matter of fact that we are trying to unite the earth under the power of our God. But then some other religion across the road is saying we want to unite humanity under our God and our principles. So do you see what I'm saying? So you won't get away from it. Hello.
So, can we talk about like what did you say? What were we talking about exactly like 3 seconds ago? About
Second.
racism stuff? No, discrimination between people in Christianity as well. For example, let me talk about something real quick. You said that um people like Christians discriminate against each other based on their race if they don't incorporate with the same behaviors and stuff. Like, is that correct?
So in the explanation I was given, right, it's basically underlying the history of the papal bulls and the doctrine of discovery. That was the kind of example.
Okay.
So yes,
But I
that's
don't
somewhat
understand how
correct.
that. For example, like I think you guys misunderstand the fact that Christianity doesn't entail that what people do is what Christianity should be doing. Like people that believe in Christianity should be doing.
Say again,
What people
sorry.
do as Christians is what people do as Christians is not what they should be doing all the time. For example, like atheists, to be atheist, you just don't have to believe in God. There's no like proper actions other than that would not make you an atheist and be a correct atheist. But for Christianity as well, as long as you believe in Christianity, the Bible, blah blah, right? You can be a Christian, but that doesn't mean that if you perform bad actions or incorrect actions, for example, you can murder like 1,000 people and technically speaking being Christian. That doesn't mean you're being Christian correctly.
But
You understand?
if God told you to do it,
Kill people.
yeah.
I don't think the Bible doesn't say kill people is wrong.
What are you talking about? God literally told the Jews to
Killing
go
people
and kill the Amalekites.
I'm not against killing people.
There's been various instances
No,
in the Bible where
killing
God's like,
people
hey,
is not-
kill this person. All right, God.
Well,
Yeah,
killing
but
people and murder is not analogous. I don't think you understand. I'm not against killing people.
right. So murdering, yeah, by definition is wrong because it's the unlawful killing. But truthfully, right, any type of killing would be wrong. Truthfully, depending on your moral code, right? But that's aside. Yeah, that's aside, right? But as for what you're saying, right? A Christian who identifies as a Christian based on the fact that they believe in Jesus and the God of the Bible is a Christian whether they kill or they don't kill. So for you to say that they are let me finish. Let me finish. For you to say they're a good Christian or a bad Christian is what's described as a no true Scotsman fallacy. Right? You say, they're not Christian because they're not the way I think they should be Christian.
The action that they perform is not what Christianity entails.
That's not true. I just gave you examples. Of that. Say again?
They killing the Amalekites, is that you said?
Yeah.
I don't think I said killing people is not wrong. My position doesn't tell killing people is wrong. I'm talking about murdering people.
Yes, but what did I say? If God tells you to do it,
then that's not murder. It's killing people.
that's nonsense, bro.
Yes.
That's nonsense. Your morality is corrupt.
What?
That's a corrupt view.
And by the way, I don't even need God to tell me to kill people. I can just kill them. I don't think you're not killing it.
Yes, I do know the difference. But what I do know is that you're trying to chop and change to make yourself not look like a terrible person. Right? I do know there's a difference. But murder is only considered a thing because of the societies or the laws that we've established. But if a God, right, that's what I'm saying, right? The definitions are only relative to our culture. But if you're talking in the olden days, right? If a god appears to a guy, right, and no one else is there to witness it, and a god says, hey, go and kill X, Y, and Z, to the rest of the world, that guy who acts on that just committed a murder. Okay? Even today, right? If someone says, yeah, God appeared to me in my dreams and he said, go and do something to a mall somewhere, right? To the rest of us, that guy's a murderer. Okay, but to him, he's God's soldier. Right. So all I'm trying to say is your view on a person being a Christian based on how they perform is nonsense. They're Christian because they believe what they believe.
They're still Christians.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's fallacious. It's fallacious to say that.
Wait a second. I don't think you understand. It's not based on performance. You can be incorrect in your actions and still be a Christian. Like, for example, let's just say, like, Hitler was a Christian. He could still be a Christian even if he did what he did.
Yes.
Like, I don't think it's fair.
Yes, but then the next step is your judgment on whether they're a good Christian or a bad Christian. Am I correct?
Oh, wait. You know the person in the comments say, we're Crusaders Christians. Yes.
So yeah. Next? But did you answer what I just said to you? Right. So the next level is whether you think they are a good Christian or a bad Christian.
It's not bad. It's more like they don't perform the action that Christianity entails. For example, let's go to the Bible real quick, right?
They do.
Let me give an example. Do you agree that the Bible says that fornication is wrong?
I don't know.
For Christian. You're not like a ex-Christian.
No.
Like, what do you think the Bible says you shouldn't do as a Christian?
It doesn't really matter.
But I'm just trying to help you.
Right. Why I'm trying to explain what you're doing doesn't matter. Well, everyone's just dropped off somehow. I don't know. Maybe it's technical difficulties. Right. Request back up if you didn't mean to drop. Everyone just dropped at the same time. No, I didn't. How can I kick everyone off in one go? That'd be silly. It's a technical thing. I sent you all invites. So come back if you want. Alright, anyways. Basically, the argument that he's making is that they are not good Christians. Right? That idea of good Christian or performance-based Christianity is just your view. But if the person believes in Jesus and believes in the God of the Bible, then by that standard, they're Christian across the board. I did send the invite. I've sent it. It's TikTok being on some bullshit. Right, let me see if they sent me a warning or something. Right, hold on. I'll request on my device and see if it's a me thing or if it's not. Error, please try again later. I probably got to restart the stream, bro. Oops. Oh no, you can request. If you swipe away and swipe back, you should be able to request. So requests are working. You have to swipe away and swipe back, apparently. Oh wait, let's try it again. No, it might be glitching. Yes. Are you on stage?
Yeah, I'm here, but I
Yeah,
had a different question, so you
it's
can continue
glitching.
with what you were saying.
Why is the it's all stretched out. So sorry, what did you say?
I was curious about a different point that is on your screen, but you can continue with what you were saying.
I'm distracted anyways. It doesn't really matter. We've got some technical difficulties.
Okay, I agree with your first and second point. I'm just curious what your arguments for smoking should be banned.
Thank you.
Alright, so I think smoking should be banned because it does more harm than good. I think you could argue that the production, consumption, and the sale of tobacco products is immoral, based on I think it's Hume's harm principle and a utilitarianism.
From like an environmental standpoint, or for a human
Both.
health standpoint?
Both. Put it this way, cigarette butts are the most littered product on the entire planet. And where they're littered, they also leach what's considered forever chemicals and other carcinogens into the ground. So, and people who smoke also release carcinogens and other chemicals into the air. So both.
I'll respond to that, but I know you and Emmanuel are talking first, so you guys can continue that, and I can listen.
You may as well just run through it quickly if you want.
I mean, I can't disagree with the environmental thing, but I think there's also things like meat consumption or other things that are detrimental to the environment. And I think eliminating personal choice about this, obviously smoking is bad for someone's health, but should we, as people who can't control the lives of others, as non-governmental entities, tell people what they can and can't do? I'm American, right? We had prohibition. We told people you can't drink alcohol. What do? Make illegal alcohol, drink more alcohol illegally. So if we ban smoking, is that
that's
just not going
partially
to create a black market
No,
from
so right,
smoking?
you made two arguments. One was a libertarian argument about stopping people's right to choose. That's not true. The other was the prohibition, which is kind of misinformed. Prohibition was initiated as a Christian experiment by a group of mums, and the government capitulated for it as a Christian experiment. Now, what happened during the prohibition is that it was poorly instituted, meaning they sent 1,500 federal agents to police millions of people in America. They also didn't consider the economic realities of their time, being that they was in the 1920s, going into the Great Depression of 1930s, I think, and World War II. The other thing is banning alcohol didn't create a black market. Black markets are parallel markets. They always exist. In 2016 and 2018, a study was done that 25% of all alcohol products consumed were produced on the black market, and people could not tell the difference. The production of moonshine and bootlegging already existed prior to prohibition. Did it become more prominent in terms of storytelling? Yes, it did. But why did America actually end up abandoning the social experiment? It was for economic reasons. They were failing economically and they needed the extra income from alcohol or illicit substances, and World War II was coming. The other thing is, during Prohibition, you could still get alcohol legally from your doctor. You could get it for production, and you could also get it for a religious sacrament. People would get prescribed alcohol for anxiety, etc., etc. But anyways, off Prohibition, to the first point you made, you can't legislate someone's ability to choose away from them. But what's actually being legislated or regulated is the market, what's accessible on the market, not your right to choose. Although your right to choose isn't necessarily something that's protected legally. It depends what you're trying to choose. So hopefully you heard me and you can unmute in time.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about the points you've been making. I mean, obviously, like what you were saying, it would be more of a market issue, but could that also set a precedent if the government can control something like the prohibition of the creation of a certain thing? Would that not also set a precedent for other industries as well to be able to ban or regulate certain markets in a similar way? Because it would eliminate essentially free market capitalism, which I don't necessarily think is a bad
It
thing.
wouldn't eliminate free market capitalism, but it is true that, right, so part of the argument you're making is a slippery slope fallacy, like, oh, if we do this, what will happen next, which is a valid concern, but arguing or thinking from fear is never a good way to reason, okay? But in terms of like the way society actually runs, it's a government's responsibility to put the well-being of the citizens as a priority. So there's a bunch of stuff that the government has prohibited and banned that no one bats an eyelid at now, but at the time people may have moaned about it, you know, like asbestos, like seatbelts, you know, like a bunch of different things. Okay? Like cocaine is one of those things that used to be prescribed to children by doctors, now no longer. So sorry, excuse my language, mercury in certain products banned. Right? Why? Because of the outcomes of it.
I think that's a good point. And I mean, I'm horrible at debating, so I don't know a lot about fallacies, and I do use like a lot of whataboutism, but I also think of when describing the argument about prohibition, like Muslim countries where alcohol is banned, sure, that's true, there's still black market, or if you're connected enough, let's say in Saudi Arabia, to the royal Al Saud family, you can still drink and just use your connections and wealth to pay off the government in a way.
So it's just corruption, basically.
But do you not think that if governments, I think, are inherently corrupt to a degree, that banning of smoking wouldn't actually be as productive because it would just be banned for certain classes of people in reality?
It's already like that though, but who should be prioritizing in a society, right? It's the most vulnerable. And if we look at it from a socio-economic point of view, people who are poor, working class, right, they're 3 to 4 times more likely to end up addicted to substances and dependent on them. And being that, if you were to take a single family unit on a low income, and then you now say, all right, we're going to tie up your disposable income in addictions, in products that are essentially not essential, right? You're reducing their well-being significantly. Then we also look at the outcomes. The disproportionate health outcomes for those people at the bottom are way worse. They're more likely to get the cancer, they're more likely to get the COPD, the asthma, and not receive treatment for it. They're more likely to end up in legal problems or disproportionate law outcomes based on their addictions and their drug habits. They're also more likely to end up with bad education and work opportunities based on these habits. So if you're prioritizing it from a class point of view, it's the smartest thing to do. The rich will always have access to things. They have access to violence on such a high level. They have access to resources on such a high level that it's not worth considering that 1% in comparison to the 99. Do you know?
No, I think that's a good point. And again, not to be like, what are the implications of this, but it would have a detrimental impact on the first generation who experiences this prohibition of smoking, let's say, because the government, in response, like you were saying, would have to have addiction treatment for nicotine or for smoking.
Which
and
they
there would
should.
be some, as they should, but would they actually? I mean, I'm in
Well,
America, and
they can. Our country is an example of that. Various other countries are examples of that. They absolutely can.
But just because they have ability to do something doesn't necessarily mean they will. I mean,
And
America,
that's why it's up to people to lobby it and get it put into policy.
but with treatment centers, I'm speaking as an American, is heavily capitalized to the point where there's a lot of ineffective treatment centers out there that are able to just be a for-profit kind of money-making machine, and would this just strengthen their capacity just in that first generation? I know after generations this wouldn't be as large of an issue, but
No,
I'm just thinking about that.
that's a valid critique and a valid concern, given that in your country, majority of the healthcare system is privatized anyway. But one could also argue, right, if you was gonna think about this on a community level, there'd have to be some pulling together of funds to do it right, and there's also a possibility in your like hyper capitalistic country to have some philanthropists pool in some money, so that these basically subsidize the services. Now, treatment centers are more devised for people on hard drugs, opiates, cracks, heroines, etc. Right, whereas if you're talking about tobacco cessation, we can actually do that quite easily with on the shelf products like nicotine patches, gums, etc. In our country, we have a healthcare system called National Healthcare System (NHS), and part of one of the services that NHS has been providing for, I want to say maybe even a decade. I'm not sure how long they've been around. Is a smoking cessation service. So it's basically a number you can call, and they'll patch you in with your local pharmacy or doctor surgery or whatever, and they will make it so it's possible for you to get these patches, these gums, etc. They also have a similar system for people who are abusing hard drugs. Right? So as a social safety net, it is absolutely possible to implement. It's just whether enough people will be behind it for your country.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I also wanted to clarify your point. Do you think smoking should be banned of all substances that are smokable? Like in the US, we're having legalization about certain things that I don't want to restrict your TikTok about.
Yeah, I
So
know.
would that
Cannabis,
include
basically.
that as well?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure, right? There are other, right? So I'm against using psychoactive substances recreationally across the board, alcohol, smoking, whatever it is, right? If it's being used recreational, like to party, to cope, to self harm, I'm against it, right? But if you're talking about, right, so how cannabis is going in the US and even in some parts of Europe, is that it's geared to become tobacco 2.0. So the production, scaling, the farming, the marketing, the shops, the shop fronts, the pharmaceutical avenues are all geared around profit incentive. So the health and the well-being of the users is not the primary concern currently, and it won't be in the future. But what one could say about cannabis is actually yes, the smoking of it should be banned, because what you gain from smoking it is negligible in terms of the damage it does. If you prefer a topical cream or a tincture, I think they call it, or whatever, an edible, there are other safer ways to consume it than smoking it to get both the claimed medical benefits and the psychoactive substance, the feeling of being high. So yeah, smoking in my view would also be banned for that too.
Yeah, I was also reading the comments about how in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, it's banned for anyone born later than some date in 2009 to purchase cigarettes.
Yeah,
And comment.
that's a piece of legislation called the Ash Act. It's not. I don't think it's come into play yet, but it's gonna.
And they were saying that even if this were to happen, people who are under the age would still be able to purchase, but there would be a point where they would be the oldest generation and nobody would be able to purchase, I think is the idea.
Yeah. So like, it's what you consider a generational lockout. So after this point, no one can ever legally buy again. Of course, this has a lot to do with both creating checks and balances for the market, basically, and people who access it, the consumers. But the reality is, people will still be able to access tobacco-based products. That's just a reality. But it's just on what scale they'll be able to do it now. Like the industry themselves will be locked out from that market legally.
I do agree with that, and I do agree that the land we use to produce tobacco should be used for other more useful things, I guess.
Yeah.
I am just skeptical of proscriptive or prescriptive government initiatives for people's health, but maybe
So,
that's just something I need to work on.
are you pro-law or anti-law?
Um, I'm not exactly sure where I would say I would stand on that. I think law needs to be flexible, but
Amendable.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
Like
would agree. Yeah.
in the US, we are supposed to consider our constitution as like a living document, right? Where we have to take into consideration the time and place these laws were made and apply them to modern context. Do we literally do that? Of course not. We say, what were they thinking back in 1776? Let's apply this to modern times, even though that's obviously like a
Yeah.
logical fallacy. So
Yeah, it's super
I don't know
flawed.
I don't know if this in particular example, if there would be issues of interpretation in the future. I mean, I'm not
No,
psychic,
well, that's
so I
the whole
can't tell you
point of
that,
law.
but
The whole point of law, like in a criminal or a civil case, the whole point is interpretation of the law. It's not actually what it says; it's what you can interpret out of it and argue for it. But why I brought that up is you're saying you're not in favor of prescription in terms of the public health care or public health. But law is exactly that. It's prescribed, right? Even a conversation around morals is a prescription of what you ought do or ought not do. So these kind of judgments are really baked into our society on so many levels. Like in some places in your country, you can't even walk across the street in the way you want to, because you ought not do that. So by doing that, you break the law. So it's already there. It's just
yeah,
whether you think it's beneficial or not.
well, it's also you have to consider the prescriber, so to speak, or the people in government, and the people in government who make decisions about my health aren't informed about health, make decisions that are negative to my health as a woman.
This is true.
Um, so yeah, I guess I worry a little bit about the expansion of powers in a way in that regard.
That's fair, but again, that is right. So that is a good critique, right? But it's also like a libertarian slash liberal critique, right? You want minimal government overreach. You want free market access, free market capitalism. That's what you're saying is a valid concern in terms of governments, but it's also really just a philosophical stance. Because if you think about it, right, the what governments are supposed to do, right, ideally, is represent the will of the people, right? If you're not living in an authoritarian, like, or totalitarian state, ideally what they're supposed to do is represent the will of the people. But also, people are also supposed to get involved with the government and the creation of policy and the seeing out of legislation. And that's usually how laws work. There are good laws and there are bad laws. People need to point out the case law and say, this is why this law is bad and needs to go. This is why this law is good and needs to come into play. Right? That has everything to do with the citizens. Right? The government have a lot of say on it, but if citizen or civilian participation is at a certain level, even in America, like you can have state laws that differ from the other state. On a federal level, you can also lobby and campaign to change things too. So it's just it's a matter of whether you care enough about this specific thing.
Well, I think also what you're speaking to is kind of, at least I'm very American centric because I can't speak to other countries. So there's the fallacy of democracy in our country, whereas the people who we vote in place to be our representatives, right, through this Republican democracy are not doing so for altruistic means, they're doing it for power or
Facts.
resource means. And we've evolved to the point where I wouldn't say the US is a democracy, we're an oligarchy, where those who are able to participate in government, able to be representatives, are those who are elite or who have connections to wealth. So I
True.
think
That is
it's
true.
just like it speaks to a larger issue about kind of the pitfalls of democracy, that when we combine democracy with capitalism and people have to work to survive, those who would be best suited theoretically to be in politics are not necessarily able to do so due to barriers of entry for financial means.
This that is
Um,
that is a fact. All of that is a fact. But you're still affected by the system you live in, so it's in your best interest to act.
right, but when there's repercussions for acting in certain means, like let's say I became an activist for this reason because against smoking for health reasons and concern, the tobacco lobby is going to shut that down immediately.
Well, it's not right. So again, the critique is valid and the concern is valid, but you're taking a defeatist approach. The people who work in government are just that people. The people who work in big tobacco or big alcohol are just that people. Okay, so if you know that, then there are ways and means or tactics and strategies to achieve your goals. All right, what are your pressure points? What are your choke points? All of these things that you should consider in your strategy. If this is an issue that you care about enough, there is a way to implement it, or at least there is a way to fight for it. You know, but to say, oh, it's impossible because they'll just shut it down straight away, it's a bit weak. It's not. It's not the
I mean,
right
I
way
think
to
I'm going to
approach
tie
things.
this into your first point about humans invented God, right? So, God, in a theoretical sense or historical sense, has been like an altruistic being who we have believed has taught us to prioritize human connection and humanity to a degree for the
Not
Abrahamic God at
not all
least.
gods. Yeah, not all. Well,
Not all
not
gods.
even the Abrahamic God. The Abrahamic God is selfish,
Vengeful,
vengeful.
yeah.
Yeah, all of that shit.
Yeah. But I think we've moved the goalposts with capitalism to where money is our god now. So I think by challenging God through limiting his ability to make money through tobacco industry could be also problematic.
Wait, so
I don't
say
know.
that again. Say that again.
So I think we've moved we've reinvented God as being fully like money, right? We worship money. It's a religion in a sense. And so I think by upsetting capitalist God, by limiting free market capitalism to whatever means of restricting production, I don't know, it'd be like
That
apostical. I don't know how to say
that is a crazy
apoplectic.
statement to
Yeah.
say. Yes, you would be treated like a heretic and a crazy, right? But the reality is everything you see around you, from a product to a service to a policy, are all things somebody somewhere had to go out of their way to bring into fruition. Yeah. And if we're to believe that competition drives capitalism, then you should be competing to to make better policies, all right? Or however you want to interpret that. But what you're saying is kind of true about God becoming the God of some people becoming money, but really the God was always just like a placeholder for the authority of men. So like the history of authority, the history of officialdom, all hinges on divine right to rule or divine right to lead. But what's happened is society is transformed into like a pseudo egalitarian place where we say the bureaucracy or the method or like the network becomes the god, the decision makers. So we dismiss the human, dismiss the god, and the process itself is the god. So the process of capitalism is the god, the process of government is the god, so forth and etc. But that being the case, it still doesn't mean it's impossible to change it.
No, I see what you're saying, but I just think, again, someone said laws aren't American. I don't think laws are American. I know that the first laws that limited government power were in the UK with the Magna Carta. I'm not that dense, but I think also we don't live in a political sphere in which the benefit of other people is the main driver of politics.
That's true. That is very true. Right? It was always to benefit the governing or the ruling class or the elite. It always has been. But any concession you've got, like a working hours or the working week, it's because people, the serfs and the subjects, push back for it. Right? And it probably reached a critical mass where they realised, we're going to need to release a pressure valve or give some concessions if we want to remain in power. The same goes every time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think a lot of like Nordic countries, which a lot of people are surprised to learn still have monarchical powers, but have just remained in place, or monarchies or don't function as a monarchy
I think they're
because they've
ornamental.
made concessions to the people, because they've made better work-life situations where they have the possibility for a 4-day work week,
Nah, because
whereas
people were going to kill them, and they have in the past.
yeah, yeah.
So I forget what the word is. It's not ornamental, but it's not like ritual. I forget what they call it. But they're there for aesthetic reasons, not there for political reasons. They don't actually have that political kind of power anymore. Well, at least in our country, anyways, right? There have been times, I forget the guy who it was. Basically, where the parliament seized power and kicked out the monarchy, they decided to bring the monarchy back because it created tyrants within the parliament. I forget the guy, right? But anyways,
Yeah, I think they did that with the random German guy who suddenly became king in the UK, if I understand British history correctly.
I forget the dude's name.
Yeah.
It's not Cromwell. It might be. I can't remember.
No,
But yeah,
Cromwell
what's
did
the
the
point?
Glorious Revolution, I think.
What was the point you was making? I'm very distracted.
No, I'm too. I was talking about God and money, and you were saying that still people still have the capacity to make changes in politics if they like work together, I guess, collectively to make changes, and we can still introduce laws even as just an average person through certain legal routes, but I think it still ties into the point where people are so preoccupied with being able to make enough money to have food on the table that political participation isn't as prevalent to them, even though political participation is necessary in order to live a quality of life that's worth living.
You're right. You're right. But you could also approach this in another way. If you want to say, look, I don't want to approach this from a litigation point of view. I want to approach this from a social engineering point of view. Or you could even say, I want to approach this. I want to approach this from a hyper-capitalist view, right? What am I going to put is as direct competition to tobacco products? I'm going to put health and well-being as direct competition to tobacco products. I'm going to engineer society in such a way where everyone is geared towards health and well-being that it's socially unacceptable to smoke tobacco. It's, you're a tobacco smoker. Like, you can culturally engineer that, you can materially engineer that, or you can legally engineer that. You know, so I think there are other approaches too, but I think you need to be able to at least think about legislation in terms of putting a parameter or putting some barriers on the corporation that actually does produce the product.
And I think in the US we did do that until the advent of vapes, and then it's kind of all undone itself. So I wonder if technological advancement is also a hindrance to your proposal.
Not necessarily. I think that is the extension of the tobacco product to go into vaping. That does make sense, but in the same way, the extension of tobacco industry is to go into cannabis as well. So it's valid. Again, a valid critique, a valid concern. But at the minute, we don't have as much data on what the damages of vape versus the data we have on the damages of tobacco. So even in some countries like ours, they would say, if this is necessary as a part of your cessation process, then use a vape instead of smoking a cigarette or a roll up. But then you still have to figure out down the line, how do I get them off vapes as well?
Well, also with the vape, there's still an even almost, I would argue, larger contamination issue with the environment, since sometimes it's a single-use battery that you throw away, and lithium batteries on the ground leaching into the earth is obviously very bad for the environment.
Facts. And I think our country brought in a piece of legislation against that as well, and they made it so I can't remember the details of it, but you can't buy so many of those disposable vapes anymore. Or there's a premium on it or something like that, because it was becoming
Yeah,
ridiculous with the littering.
like in my state in New England where I live, like they banned, for example, like flavored vapes because they were obviously heavily targeting children. What does that mean? People just drive across the border to another state, or, and I guess European sense, another country where that hasn't been enacted yet. So I think that's also a
Some
point.
people though, right? Majority of people will be more willing to be law abiding if it's gonna like create some friction in their normal life. But some people are obviously willing to break the law or bend the law, but not everyone.
Right. It's the cost effect balance or whatever.
I'm not sure.
But
Wesley,
yeah, thank you for the conversation. I'll go down now.
no, I appreciate it. You should stay up, bro. You should stay up. It's nice to have a woman on the panel and a woman that's actually educated, so it's nice having you here.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can we talk about the third? Racism is worse than classism.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, why do you think so?
I think you could say the
Oh, wait.
effects.
Define racism and classism first.
Say again.
Can you define them?
I would say racism is a system of prejudice that targets people that are different ethnicities or different colors. I would say classism is just like is a byproduct of social constructs. If that makes sense.
And what do you think is worse?
So yeah, I would say that the outcomes of racism are more visceral and more violent than the outcomes of classism.
Hmm. Well, don't you think it depends?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. There's a level of relativity in it.
Wouldn't like classism kind of entail racism? Like, isn't the same thing? Like, people like say we're a different class of humans and like
Do you
stuff
know,
like that.
instead of me actually leaning on my own probable misunderstanding, I'll just give you a definition of it.
Okay.
So in sociology, classism is prejudice, discrimination, and unfair treatment against people based on their social, class, economic status, job, or level of education. It treats individuals as less valuable or important depending on where they rank in economic hierarchy.
So they're just both discrimination. One is like based on how you look, and the other one is based on your social.
Yeah, so, but make no mistake, classism is a big reason why racism even exists in the first place.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, isn't it like connected? This was it.
They are connected.
So if they're connected, how can someone be worse if classism makes racism?
So,
If classism makes racism, should classism be worse than racism?
yeah, but classism is a part of the whole. But the whole
So,
isn't necessarily the same thing as classism. Does that make sense? In this case of racism.
but it's still discrimination.
Yes, no doubt. But it's systems.
So
It's systems that make racism worse. It's not just prejudice.
okay, so I would say that the racism is just discrimination based on the perceived race, whatever.
Say again,
So,
sorry?
like racism is just discrimination based on the perceived racial distinction, and classism is just distinction based on your place in society or something. So it's just different.
I think, yes, that can be true in a sense, but I think the concept of racism is far more nuanced than just a visual prejudice.
So you need to give me your definition because, like, I don't see the essential record.
I would say it's systems that have been devised to exploit and dehumanize a group of people. It's not just I don't like you because you're black, right? So if you think about it from like a historic point of view,
Yeah.
race isn't actually biological, it isn't real, it's a social construct. But something like race had to be cooked up to convince a group of people in Europe that it was okay to go and do something to a group of people in Africa or Asia. Right. And through that, say again?
You don't need to call it race. You can just look at gender and someone else and say like, well, you're different to me. So
No, it's not about difference, bro. If you think back like thousands of years ago, Greeks used to chill with Egyptians and Persians and Venetians. They all used to trade, right? So there was a specific point in Western history when racism had to be devised as a system to exploit. People knew that there were different races. People knew that there were different colors. Well, no, different races. People knew there were just different people. That was well known. Right? But at a certain point in time, it was like, actually, right, are we going to continue to exploit the people here, or are we going to devise a reason to exploit the people over there?
for example, like do you think like people look at people that are shorter than them to make a difference?
Say
That
again?
doesn't mean they're killing them. Use like height as a difference. They
What
just
the
use differences to act. They don't need like specific
No.
like
Right, so if you think about it like this, right? To pull off something like the transatlantic slavery, you need a system of race, right? Because slavery already existed in Europe, right? We get the word slave from the enslavement of Slavic people, okay? So they were already enslaving their own people over here.
like I don't get what people say like that's not like Atlantic like but this slavery didn't begin like 400 years ago.
Say again, bro. Your mic is so bad.
People didn't need people didn't need justification for to like enslave black people. Like they were enslaving their own people while they were enslaving black people at the same time, probably.
Yes,
mean-
but in order to move from exploiting their people and also opening up access to resources on other lands, they needed to come up with reasons to say that those people aren't the same type of human as us people, right? Therefore, it's justified to do X, Y, and Z. All of the reasons they came up with are bullshit. Some of those reasons depend on religion.
The reason wasn't even the color of the skin. It was more like you're like technologically behind something. It's not even.
Sorry?
It was originally.
The reason they used wasn't even like racially motivated. It was like they just they're like backwards in technology or something.
No,
Or is that like
no, that's what I'm saying. That's foolishness. But go on, Lilies.
Well, I was just going to say that there's also the religious justification through like the curse of Ham or the myth of Ham in the Bible to say that this event happened in the Bible, so that this is why people who are from Africa are considered to be lesser than from a Christian sense. And I also think it's a huge, gross characterization to say that people in Africa are technologically not as advanced as
what it is?
Europeans, even
And that's
in the time
exactly
of colonizers. So that's just
that.
a mischaracterization, in my opinion.
Okay.
Emmanuel, you
So
got a bad signal, bro.
yeah, no, my phone is exploded. Yeah, it's not a good phone. Like, let's see if we can change something.
See?
Wait.
Saying that, like, in Africa, weren't as technologically advanced, then how were Egyptians able to build the pyramids? You know, that kind of thing.
No,
Like,
wait. I think
like,
that's what we
make
use
that make
as an
sense to me,
excuse.
please.
I think that's what we use as an excuse. For example, it would say, well, where's your big houses? Where's that? Where's your castles? And just like, you don't have castles.
They did
Therefore,
have castles. And they did have big houses.
The richest man in history was African. Like,
I
I'm
think
But
confused.
I think it was the kingdom of the Benin kingdom, I forget.
Calm down.
So,
I'm literally black.
so just roll back that argument then.
Like, they would say, well, you guys are still using voodoo, stuff like that, right?
Sorry?
And you guys are still using voodoo.
No,
and
we
they're like, using-
fam, you've realised 90% of the West
I know
is
it's still
pagan.
used it as well at the time. I know it's
You realise a lot of pagan traditions of the West, Western Europe specifically, are now part of Christianity, right? The traditions, their beliefs.
I don't think I'm not like
Christmas,
not
Easter.
white. I'm black. Hello.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just saying that's
so why would you say that then?
I'm just saying that's what they use. I'm not saying that's true.
Yeah, someone may make those justifications after the fact, right? But the view was, we're doing this on to our people, right? But we need to legitimize reasons to go and do it over there.
That's the point.
Any reason, yeah. So any nonsense reason would have been used, but the primary reason was that they are different physically, like biologically, they look different to us, and then we justify that through racial science.
You telling me you didn't use the fact that they
Shit like phonology, I think, if that's even a thing.
you didn't use like less advanced as a justification?
Say again?
You think you didn't use the fact that they called them less advanced as a justification?
What, sorry?
Do you think they used the fact that they called them less advanced as a justification?
Some people may have. Some people may have.
Exactly. That's
But
just all I'm saying.
but the invention of race was primarily produced so they could go and do that.
Yeah.
Right? People already knew of differences. We had a history of trading with each other already. So they already knew that. But racism had to be devised to okay it.
I still don't understand like how racism works in classism, when classism basically makes racism. Like,
I guess I would say you are able to, if we're talking about classism in the financial sense, you can transcend class. You can't transcend your racial identity.
you just get plastic surgery.
Alright, Michael Jackson. Alright, Michael. Mike still, look. Mike still found out he was a nigga at the end though, didn't he? So say again?
Okay.
I want to chime in on this.
Yeah, jump in.
Hey, I think I agree that there are like racial justification in order to do colonialism and press people out of their resources. But I also think like even today they moved the goalpost to the next thing. When we found out actually we're not that different, now it's the goalpost is shifted to well we have the power, so might is right. So we're allowed to do this because we're stronger. So you can see the goalposts keep shifting.
Yeah, that's true. But I also think that's what kicked it off in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, it was about domineering other people, but first it was presented as like because of people weren't knowledgeable, a lot of people were just like uneducated, so they could
Like,
exploit that. Now everyone's educated, realize, wait, we all the same, we bleed the same. So like, what's the excuse now? Oh well, it's because these people are backwards. We have the power. We have to go and liberate them. And then you say, well, you didn't liberate them. Well, sorry, might is right. You know, that's how humans are. You know, they keep shifting the goalpost.
This is true.
like for
But
example,
also I see real quick also among white people or like white supremacists, like because Christianity was the identity they used to oppress people. Now they go back to paganism to be like, oh, to do the might is right thing because Christianity doesn't allow it. Now everyone knows Christian scripture, quote unquote. I'm not saying Christianity doesn't have like bad elements in it, but I'm saying like now Christianity says, oh, don't kill your neighbor, blah blah blah. But now they go back to barbaric paganism to excuse their might is right today.
Well, paganism itself isn't barbaric. That's also Christian propaganda.
okay, can I speak now?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry.
So, like, for example, Europeans weren't even considered like a single race in the 1600s. So, if you use race as an excuse, it just enslaved the white people as well.
Mhm.
Get me? But they didn't. So, they need all the justification
Oh no,
because they were.
they did. Wait,
That's
wait,
fine.
wait, wait. Can you say that
That's
again?
not the same. That's the point.
Say again, because your mic's very breaking up.
Yeah.
It's breaking up a lot. Sorry.
Europeans were not considered the same race, even though they were quote unquote white in the 1600s. But they were, I know they were like expelling each other still, but it wasn't to the same degree because they considered them relatively close in advancement or whatever. So it didn't do it. That's why if
No,
they
it's not true,
found
bro. Like
then why did they,
even into the 1990s, right? They had something called the Bosnian Wars. These people are European, right?
I know that's the point.
essentially white,
Just
right?
like
But they have a little bit of Turkish in them, a little bit of like Persian type
like to a
of
lesser degree.
ancestry and shit. But there was always ethnic, right? You could say there are different ethnic groups amongst white people, but white people had to, even saying it like this is actually silly, right? But white people had to divorce or give up their ethnic identities, give up their cultures to assimilate to this view of whiteness and to have this flat white identity across Europe. They gave up a lot of these things. Say again?
Began this white identity began like actually I think just began this century. Like no one actually believed it
No.
like in the 90s.
Whiteness is like, it's like, I'm gonna say like 500-600 years ago probably.
No, that I mean like the collective of white people. Like you hear people say now that like everyone is one race in Europe. That's not a real thing.
Well, yeah, that never. It's not a real thing. It never was a real thing. But in terms of collapsing identity,
I'm gonna tell you to them. It was never a real thing. Like if you ask a person like 20 years ago, is this Balkan person and this Italian person the same race? They would say no. But
yes,
now they
that's
say,
true. In an American context, but if you think about it, right, during the process of Christendom, like I think it's 4th century AD, right, up to the 20th century, that whole process of basically dominating Europe was like a campaign of removing people's identity and culture for this flat Christianity, but then also translates into flat whiteness, one people, one culture. Although it's not the case, right? But that's the ideology that gives rise to the negation of that. So in order to say, right, so whiteness functions and blackness functions by saying black is the negation of white. So whiteness needs to be an identity that's constructed to say that there is an other. But if you don't construct the identity of whiteness, the other has it's meaningless. Does that make sense? I appreciate you, Lily.
Wait, I saw your title earlier was Great Replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that something you wanna talk about, or is that
Sure.
in the
Yeah.
past?
I'll have a quick natter about it. Like we're gonna shut this thing down in a minute. But yeah, I'll have a quick chat.
I think Great Replacement is just some crap which is not even gonna work out. Because I even noticed among so-called far-right people, it went from Great Replacement to demographic realism to, oh, we should import everyone except Muslims. It just keeps trickling down to and also the ruling class won't allow the far right to impose a total strict immigration. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, it would never work. Right?
I think sure they will be strict and deport some symbolic people, like some symbolic deportations, but I think at the end of the day it's just fuss and bots
Say again?
passing it around.
It's what?
I think it's just all like a fuss online and bots passing it around.
What's a fuss?
Saying like just like fluff, like just like BS.
Ah, okay.
Nothing substantial.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like just people who see like their delivery driver being brown or black, and they be like, "Oh no, it's over." It's like no,
But
it's nothing to do with it.
So like these like I'm in agreement with you, just to be clear, but how this actually does spill out into the real world is targeting uneducated people or inducing fear in people and then twisting that fear, you know. So that the stupidity of it all online is one thing, but then the idiots, well, let's just say the unconsenting, right, go out with these ideas that they've got online and they manifest them as a reality. So like this whole fake construct of the Great Replacement theory, like nationalism as a concept is nonsense, because a nation is an abstract thing. Right? To consider yourself as part of a nation was always abstract, right?
Yeah.
But to take that out of the abstract world and try to live that as a real world is what these people, or the unsuspecting people, do. So they take the stupidity and they bring it into fruition as a reality. So why it's so dangerous. Right? Does that make sense?
But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But also it implies a very super racial view, because it's like the word is majority non-white, so you're assuming that all other races are not worth preserving, but only yours. It's like what's up with that, you know?
But that's kind of the base of what we were just speaking on, right? It's this
yeah.
Or yes, we can permit in-group, out-group politics no matter what you look like, where you're from. But how Western domination has occurred is to think that whiteness is the standard, is the norm, even though they're the global minority. So it's all built on a type of delusion at its base, and then if little pieces of reality start to leak into a delusion, it's gonna create all kinds of like mental strife for people, so that people will do whatever they can
it's like
to reinforce
like
it.
some sort of gaslighting too, and some like crazy theories coming up. It's like, no, bro, from the beginning you're a global minority, and don't worry, it's not gonna be like other ethnics gonna take revenge on you. No, they are civilized. They're not barbaric. They're not gonna, this weird characteristic of people.
Well, look, although we live in these societies and we're like, yes, like the right thing to do isn't to do violence, essentially, right? One could argue that it's necessary to have checks and balances. So if there are no repercussions at all, then the worst types of people will continue to be the worst types of people and spread the worst types of ideology. So there has to be some checks and balances.
Yeah, I'm not telling people to be passive and Gandhi.
But to think that all black people and all brown people are like, yes, as soon as we get a chance, we're going to colonize you. No, we're not you, but we may have other ways of keeping power in check. So
of course, I think that's more reasonable. Nah, but I think it's just crazy, this theory, and it also shows that they think that other ethnics cannot reproduce this kind of society. It's like, yeah, of course they can reproduce British values. It has been shown. And even some foreigners are even more patriotic than the, domestic.
Well, one could argue, right? in a sense, other cultures may not be inclined to build societies like this because at the base of this society is some of the worst possible things. Now, it's not to say that they're not capable of doing it. It's just it's probable they just don't have the inclination to do it. You know, to get to the point where we are, to go through all of these transformations like the Enlightenment and to arrive at this like apparently multicultural egalitarian society, it still requires all the whole foundation to be leaning on the capacity to do maximum and mass amounts of violence. It's what keeps the whole of the West running. It's violence, you know. So yes, from that perspective, it's probably true that like a country with a smaller GDP in Africa somewhere isn't going to produce England because it's going through a different historical necessity or trajectory than England's history, than France's history, than Portugal's history, or the BRICS countries, or whatever, you know. So yeah, so it's
everyone
kind
has
of
their
true.
own logos they're operating from.
Yeah.
Every country has their own logos.
Yeah. So you wouldn't want the world to be some copy and paste homogenous society, right? What would be the point? So why would we want that?
Yeah, of course. You will have like China that's very Confucian. Meanwhile, Europe is more Christian-based values. So it's
Kind of, yeah. Unfortunately, kind of.
unfortunately. I mean, I think eventually there will be, depending on the cultural hegemony, maybe China will chime in and influence us. We don't know. But
China has already.
Chinese also seem very interesting.
China
You
has
think so?
already, no doubt about it. Like just economically have influenced us, militarily have influenced us, bro. Like
But they don't
like
seem interested
colonial.
in culturally influencing us.
I don't know if that's actually true, right? If you look around and you think about the products that we actually consume, the clothes we wear, like our machinery and stuff like that, China has a big part to play in most of it. But what I was going to say, like even our colonial interactions with China and the East have influenced us.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like the West exists in some vacuum.
Yeah, I think a lot of legal system stuff like that has been inspired from Asia and stuff.
Yeah, one of the ideas for bureaucracy or democracy was taken from Chinese civilizations. That power would move from just one person into various people, or there would be a process of taking a test to see who's viable for power. That was taken from China. Right.
Yeah, I feel like also like the institutions, the universities and stuff comes from like West Asia as well. So
Yeah, sounds possible.
a lot of like structures actually aren't from Europe. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, look, I'm not let's heal the world, hold hands and shit, but I'm also not willing to dismiss
I'm
the
not gonna say
contributions
that.
of all these different people. No. So
No, of course it's about having a nuanced view. I'm not gonna be like I prefer this over that, but
no, legit.
more of a melting pot maybe.
Anyways, so later. I don't like. I'm not engaging properly because I'm ready to end the stream, but I will come back on maybe later or tomorrow, and we can get into it a bit more seriously. But yeah, I appreciate you, bro. I don't know if what's his name that I was speaking to yesterday, Omega. The stream that we did yesterday, it only has my audio, right? So what I'm gonna be doing probably is I'm gonna upload the TikTok live recording to the YouTube, and I'll put it unlisted and post it in a community tab. So if you want to watch it, you just click that link or keep that link, and you can watch it anytime. Because if I upload it like a video, it will go into my video feed, and that'll mess up my algorithm as shit as it is already. That's not a good idea. So for the past few streams that we've had technical difficulties like that, there's just been my mic and no other mics. That's probably what I'll have to do. But anyways, it might come back later, might not. Enjoy your Sunday. Try not to pray too hard or eat too much. Or pray to, like, bow to your head, hits your knees or whatever. Do whatever the hell you want, right? I'll see you in a bit. So yeah.